Whitehall Township has an obligation to affirmatively fair housing to review all land use applications in accordance with federal civil rights statutes. This includes taking meaningful action that overcome patterns of segregation and foster inclusive communities free from barriers that restrict access to opportunity based on protected characteristics. The township in its land use decisions does not discriminate against persons based on race, color, national origin, religion, sex, disability, or familial status, and reviews all land use applications in accordance with federal civil rights statutes. Public comments made on the basis of bias and stereotype concerning people within these protected classes will not be taken into consideration by the township in its deliberation. First order, do I have a motion for approval of minutes for February the 10th?
I'll make that motion. Warren?
Do I have a second?
I'll second it, Snyder.
Yeah, I'll second it, Snyder.
Okay, Mr. Secretary.
I have one comment. Just in the first paragraph, just to clarify that my recommendation is to do everything that the law requires us to do and empowers us to do. My distinction was we shouldn't be doing anything that we don't have the power and duty to do. That's all. Thank you.
Any other comments on the minute? Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Warren,
Aye.
Commissioner Snyder,
Red. Yes.
Commissioner Attia is a yes, Commissioner Fox,
Yes.
and President Sloniker.
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
Next item, courtesy of the floor. Mr. Secretary, what's the first name there?
I have Becky, I'm going to say K is the first letter of the second last name. Sorry, the handwriting isn't always
Cadango.
easy to read. Cadango. Come on up, please.
Up to the mic, your name and address, please.
Do you want my work address or my home address?
Home address, please.
My home address is 522 East 4th Street, Northampton, Pennsylvania.
Okay, you realize this is for...
Yes, sir, I
residents?
do. I am here not to cause an issue. I am here only to get some answers, that's all.
Nobody's saying it's an issue. I'm
Okay.
just- Okay, but is it that you work in...
I work in Whitehall, yes, I do.
And there's a concern that you have there then?
The concern is the closure of Water Street.
You have 3 minutes.
Okay. I've looked at the plans for capital expenditures, I've looked at the Pine Street Bridge structure, and it seems to be an issue. It's not very structurally sound, so when you close Water Street, has the committee thought about how this is going to affect the other communities around you? Have you polled the other taxpayers? Because all I hear is, we've heard from Water Street. We haven't heard from any other taxpayers of how this is going to affect them. The fire department. I mean, can't we make the street safer? Put in a sidewalk, make it a one-way, lower the speed limit. Put in maybe rumble strips.
Just to address your concerns, all those things have been thought about. The mayor has been in contact with Pennsylvania, with the, what is it, streets? Okay. And he's addressed these items.
Okay.
So that it's not like willy-nilly. and
What,
just
okay,
do it.
why are you closing it? I understand that there was an accident, I understand there was a fatality.
Because of the way the street is constructed, it's maybe not what it should be because of how old the street is and things were different back then. And it has a lot of characteristics that cannot be improved. And just going ahead and saying if we put in a rumble thing and that, those are things that the state has to approve for us to.
I understand that, I do. And, you know, comparing the studies that you did, when you did the studies back in 2020, the enforcement total, you gave them a 10-mile speed limit differential. When you did the recent one, there was no speed limit differential. So how can you use those studies to close the street? You haven't even released the accident, who was at fault, the reasoning, anything like that.
These are all things that the mayor has discussed with the Department of Transportation, Lehigh County. I mean, this is, like I said, it's not a nilly-willy thing, and we gotta look at the real concern. Somebody having to drive another 5 minutes or something.
That's not,
And again, I'm just saying, and, you know,
okay, does everybody on the board stand behind the mayor's decision?
there has been no final decision yet rendered.
But I would say, we did meet with, I contacted Lehigh Valley Planning Commission because I knew there were other programs for traffic calming.
Right.
And I wanted to get more information. For many years, we were told we can't do anything. We
Right,
can't do
I
we can't
understand.
do speed bumps,
Thank you.
and.
I understand,
and-
thank you.
Okay, but the state does say traffic calming is an option. So I would like to take an incremental approach where maybe others disagree with me.
I understand, I just
Thank you.
wanted some answers. Thank you.
Next is Carrie Lee Crossan.
Yes, hello, my name's Carrie Lake Crossan, address 4552 Cairo Drive. I'd like to bring attention possibly to relooking at our current noise ordinance in Whitehall Township. With the recent growth within the Lehigh Valley since COVID, as well as a lot of people working remote, I'd like to possibly adopt within our existing noise ordinance something during the daytime hours. And possibly look at our nighttime hours. I know it's like 10:30 to 6 or something like that, maybe changing that to like maybe 10 to 7, like Sunday through Thursday, and then Friday and Saturday, like have 10:30 till 7 o'clock. But yeah. So maybe just revisit the current noise ordinance of adding something during the daytime hours.
We'll find out what the thoughts of the board are and go from there.
Okay. I know that there's a smaller group that talks about it as well, so I would appreciate it. I just wondered what the next steps are, like how that proceeds after a suggestion is made.
Could you explain why?
Well, and
Um,
sorry to interrupt you, but what people don't understand is how hard it is to enforce a noise ordinance. I mean, they've been trying different places, they just don't work as well as people think they're going to.
So I appreciate what you're saying, Mr. Slonamaker, but if it's written and there's issues, at least the residents of the Whitehall Township have something to kind of back us up. If we decide to proceed further with it, at least there's something in writing that will back us up.
The enforcement, though, from the police perspective, is not as simple as, because all of a sudden, police come up, that gets turned down, the voices go down, they leave, it's right back again. And I've been.
So it's funny that you said that, because I actually brought that up. I have 2 minutes or 3 minutes. I actually brought that up, and I do recognize that people now have Ring cameras, front, back of the houses. As soon as that cop pulls up, they're gonna turn it down. I mean, there's gotta be an easier way for a cop to maybe pull onto another street, to sit there and listen, to see if it's too loud, and then they can go and possibly enforce it.
I asked why, I did.
You said noise in the daytime
Yes.
and COVID. Is there concerns that are going on in the daytime that I would not be aware of? Or is it
I
going?
would say in some of our areas, and, I mean, I can speak on behalf of myself, but I'm sure there's other residents in our township that are probably experiencing the same issue. They're just afraid to speak up about it. I just want to possibly see if there's a way to incorporate that into our existing ordinance.
My suggestion is that you put it in writing to the commissioners and ask us to review it at a thing called L&L,
Okay.
which is legal legislative.
Okay.
And then when it comes to us, we would officially look at it and decide whether we want to do it or not. But if you would put it in writing, I would appreciate it. and I would take a look at it and see what the story is.
Okay, and then just drop it off here?
You could drop it off at the mayor's office, and then we take a
Okay.
look at it. Fair enough?
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Next is Pete Riley.
Hi, my name's Pete Ryle. I'm at 4477 North Church Street, Whitehall. I'm actually kind of representing Egypt Memorial Park. Two things. One is, probably for the last decade, we've had a lot of discussions with different people regarding some land that is below the park, between us and the development below, about 5 acres, that was given to the township in that development. We've had a lot of discussions about trying to purchase that land, and my understanding is there was an intent when all this happened for it to become part of Egypt Park. We'd like to continue that discussion and see how we can purchase that land from the township for the park, for its use. So that's one thing. The other thing to bring up is that my understanding is there's going to be some work done down in that area this summer, filling in a swale and some heavy machinery that's coming in. We want to develop that land with the township's help or through grants or any way we can to develop an all-purpose, a multi-purpose field for a number of sports, not just baseball. And in so doing, we were hoping to see if we could work with the township and the commissioners to, if the heavy equipment is coming in this summer, is there a way to tag on to that to get that area cleaned out, leveled? My understanding is that the residents in the development aren't real happy with the eyesore that it is. So we've heard a lot of comments and like, what are we going to do about it? So that's part of why I'm here tonight. Big thing though is the purchase of that land, if we can work out something. And we've been working on it for about 10 years. And numerous people throughout that time period have talked to us. We've never gotten any further than we've talked about it. Is there any thoughts by the commissioners or any awareness of this?
Yeah, we're referring to Field 5.
Yes.
Yeah, Mayor Hosa worked on that a while ago. When I was on the sewer authority, well, I'm still on the sewer authority, but when we put in the Copley Creek Interceptor, I was asked by the Park Association, Dale Wrights was the president at the time, if we would be willing to give them our fill from the project. And we did so, and that's where it came from. That's where the eyesore came from in Belmont Glen. I also had one of our board members volunteered to go over and grade and seed everything when it was done. But unfortunately, with the permitting at the time, I was told proper permitting wasn't in place and that it couldn't be done until it was. Frank could enlighten us a little more on this too, with the permitting process and what's required in order to do this. And Frank, if you could address the issue of the swale situation and, sorry.
There we go. Yeah, I've got the sordid history of that. When Belmont Glen came in, we took 1 acre of recreation land plus purchased I think it was another 4. It's close to a 5 acre piece. And it was supposed to be developed into another ball field. And in order to do the grading out there, we did the design work for it, but we needed an NPDES permit from the state. So we started working on that, and then the plug was pulled by the mayor at the time. In the meantime, somebody brought in a bunch of busted up concrete. We found that, stopped that. And then as the mayor said, the sewer authority was working with their contractor and say, hey, there's a great place for fill. We had to stop that because we don't have a permit for it. So we have a couple of piles of waste out there right now, which looks hideous, but we can't really do much about it. Nobody came to take it off. It is usable if we ever get a permit, so you really don't want to, haul it away again. So that's what remains as the roadblock, at least as far as developing it. So all the grading and everything that would need to be done can't be done until we get the permit. If the township wants to entertain a sale, that doesn't affect the permit and anything else. In regard to the work that's going to be going on down in the swale, that's a private contractor that has been hired by the township through a bidding process to rehabilitate that swale down there in order for us to meet other environmental regulations. So it wouldn't be prudent to have those guys, even though they're there, to come up and do any work on there because we're not allowed to do any work up there until we get the permit for the field.
Okay.
So a couple of things at play there. Some are related, some are not.
So, and I realize I'm past my time, but my question then would be, how do we move forward? Like I said, 10 years is a long time to be talking. We need to move forward, not just for, it's not the park, it's for the kids. And originally, like you said, it was a baseball field. Well, that's not the same now as it was then. Now we're looking at, hey, flag football, soccer, lacrosse, field hockey.
Sure.
Numerous things that this field, Whitehall could use. We don't have those kind of fields available all over. So we can do that. We have the ability. How do we move forward with this group?
I'm gonna hand the mic back.
I suggest you talk to the mayor to see what specifically you might need for you people to do.
Why don't we plan a meeting? Shelley, yourself, and the rest of your board, I'll meet you guys whenever, wherever. We'll sit down, we'll come up with a plan and concept, and we'll bring it back to the board.
And I
present it to
appreciate
them.
that. And no offense,
problem.
but I mean, I've been through some mayors and
No,
and we've
well-
always said we're having meeting. We've had some.
I can assure you, this mayor will be there, and I'll get it done.
All right, I
And
appreciate that.
And I did ask that when we were doing this Belmont Glen swell, that this be considered bundled into the project. I guess we probably could. But just to clarify a point of history, most of the land, 4 acres, was bought by Green Future funds from the county, Lehigh County. And when they were doing the Pine Street Bridge, there was a plan to possibly use all the excess soil from that project. And that's when Frank got involved, and then when they tested the soil, it came back high in heavy metals. So the urgency of that project kind of fell off.
Okay.
But yes, it's been 10 years, we should move on it, whether we have to apply for a grant to plan for it. But it's been like, oh, if they don't speak up, it'll go away, and that's how we've been playing.
We're trying to speak up now.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Next is Lorianne Fainal.
Lorianne Fainal, 3107 North 3rd Street, Whitehall.
It's a musical introduction.
Thank you. I'm here to speak because I support Joe 100% on closing Water Street. For anybody that second guesses him on doing the right thing, this is the right thing. I was down there in Dogtown the other day. I had to pick up my son, and I watched a mom and her young son almost get hit by a car trying to get up to the lot, and that disturbed me. Literally, the car was not paying attention to this mother and her son. And to second guess it when there's loss of life and people wanting to think that it's going to be a problem because they can't use it as a cut through anymore. We have to, what's more important, we have to preserve. We can't have any more loss of human life. And what he's doing is right until they figure something out. And if it's going to be a permanent thing, I support that 100%. Protect the people down there 100%. You have my support on that, Joe. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Next up is John, looks like the first letter is an S. Schlenker.
Good evening. I want to address an issue that I sent a letter to Mayor Marks, and I'm not going to read the letter to you, but it's addressing
Mr. Schleicher, I'm sorry, did we get your name and address as well, please?
Sure. John Schlenker, 835 Mallard Drive, Whitehall.
Thank you.
It's the garbage bill. Now, don't get excited. Yes.
Are you doctor?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I just received your letter.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to give you that.
All right, great, thank you. I'm glad that you received it. I'm not addressing the increase in the cost of the garbage. That's a done deal, and it's certainly been publicized enough. But I received a phone call from my best friend who lives in Kimmett Avenue in Whitehall the other day, and he said, "Did you get your garbage bill?" I said, "Yes, I did." He said, "Did you see the amount?" I said, "Yes, I did." He said, "Can you believe it?" I said, "Yes, I can." I said, "You know, this has been publicized enough for the front page of the Morning Call, certainly a buzz throughout the community." And I said, "You know, it's a settled issue." I said, "But you know that we, over 72, are entitled to a 25% discount." And he said, "No, I didn't know that." Now, he's lived in Whitehall for about over 5 years. I said, well, take a look at your bill, turn it over, look at the bottom panel on the back side. And I said, within there, you'll see not only a 25%, but also the amount that you are required to pay for your garbage. Well, we had a further discussion, of course. We both went back to our previous bills for over the last couple of years. I went back to 2019 because that's when I turned 72. And I noticed one very dramatic thing. I paid the full amount in 3 of those years. I paid the discount in 3 of those years. What was the difference? Well, again, upon further examination, I uncovered, by making a chart, which is my nature, that the 3 years that I got the discount, I came in here to the office, and the clerk would very kindly looked at the bill, said, are you over 72? I said, yes. I showed her my license, crossed it out, charged me the 25% discount. The 3 years that I paid the full amount, unknowingly, I sent in by mail. Because when you take a look at the bill, and I've got my copy of my bill here, when you get the 2 bills for the school tax and for real estate, it does give you a discount. But that's if you pay by a certain date. You get a 2% discount. Now, you would assume, logically, that if you prove that you're over 72 1 year, it would go to other years. I'm getting older, not younger. But when I took a look at that, what I noticed is that it was my error. I did not pay attention to the back panel, lower panel, hidden away what my tax would be. So I think that there are 2 things. One is I hope that you counselors will take a look at that, because I'm afraid that there are a lot of people like me who paid the extra $80 because they didn't pay attention to the back. Oh, I'm sorry. And in fact, I spoke to my brother-in-law yesterday, who also lives in Kimmett Avenue. He paid the full amount this year, $602. Didn't know that there was a discount on the back of the panel. So I think that certainly there are a lot of people in our community who probably paid the full amount when they should not have. And also, I think if you made the form much more user-friendly, as they say, it would be easier for us to understand that maybe there could be a little statement under the box that says if you're over 72, you get your discount. Now, you don't have to turn it over. Get out your magnifying glass.
That verbiage is on the newsletter that goes out. It does tell you things, and
I understand that.
I know
I
I've
understand that.
collected the garbage fees and whatnot for a long time, and the thing about, you're not gonna get any younger as the year goes on. I know all about that, and I had the same kind of complaints at that time.
Well, I would just think that certainly the township would have software, computer software that would flag it and really put the true amount that is due for people over 72.
So you push the button.
As far as 72, since I started here in 2022, we keep ID on file. So the tax clerks are aware when you come to the window, you ask. However, it's on the back of the bill because I have a lot to say on the bills and there's no place to put it but on the back. We don't print the bills up here. Another company prints them up. But as far as if a taxpayer sends in a bill at 6:02 with a check, it isn't fiscally responsible to send that check back and say, because they get lost in the mail, and then it goes to delinquency. So we advise various means, newsletter on the back of the bill. I actually have a Facebook page where I say it, and we have all the IDs on file. The bills cannot be printed at a reduced rate because the bills, we know what your date of birth is, but the billing company doesn't know. So we know who our seniors are in Whitehall Township, so we can reduce the bill. And we try as hard as possible.
I understand that, but again, I think it's misleading because on the bill, specifically the bill that's for the garbage, it says discount. I would think that discount, my over 72 discount, that's what that means. It doesn't say what it is.
Right. We don't have room on the front of the bill to put it anymore.
Well, I know, but a lot of people, I think, are paying extra money.
I understand your time's up, but.
Yeah, I know.
yes, there are other avenues to find that out on the website and whatnot. And again, it'd be great if we could go to everybody's store and say, hey, make sure you do whatever, but.
Yeah, I know you can't do that, but again, I think it's misleading to anybody, much less somebody over 72.
It's misleading, I just think that there's not necessarily enough to it to go on. I don't think it's misleading, it basically tells you what, and I understand what you're saying, a discount, but
It's not
you
clear.
know, you pay early, you're in the discount period for everything, taxes, per capita, garbage. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next.
I have Pete Ryle again, but I believe that's who went earlier. Okay. Deb Rosine? Everyone's gonna hear that in their sleep.
Deb Rosine, 4408 North Church Street, Whitehall. Just here to tell you about some fun things that the EAC has planned coming up. First off, this Saturday, the Emergency Management Service is going to be doing a demonstration of drone technology at the Parkway. And basically, what they're going to do is a flyover the Parkway so that we get a motion picture of the entire Parkway from up high, which will be great because we'll be able to have individual pictures, and that will really help with the proposal for the strategic plan that we're putting together, as well as maybe point out some things that you don't see when you're just walking around. The other thing that we have planned is we have a bunch of spring cleanups that we'll be doing pretty soon. The first one is planned for the last Saturday in March. I'm going to pull up and give the dates real quick. March 29th at Jordan Creek, which is the area right next to Home Depot off of MacArthur Road. We have another cleanup that we've planned for South Church Street and Chestnut Street, working with the fire police, where we kind of do the perimeter around the Whitehall Parkway. And finally, we have a May 3rd, we're going to be cleaning up Range Road from Schatt Avenue down to Eberhart Street. And all of these things will get published on social media, so people will be aware of them. Kind of the times, which are usually 9 to 11 a.m., and kind of how you're supposed to dress, and if there's any rain dates that are involved. And we've also published it on the Helper app for the high school kids so that they can volunteer for social hours. The final thing is we're going to be doing a joint walk. It's our first one with the IRT guys, and we're planning a historical bird watch kind of walk that is going to occur in the Parkway. It's going to start at the Big Red Barn. It's going to go over to the bird watch area. We're still kind of figuring out some of the last details of what it is, and I think we're excited about it. We're excited to be partnering with them, and we're hoping to turn it into a guided self-walk that people can do with like a 2-page brochure that will be available in the IRT kiosks and in the municipal building here, as well as the kiosk that we'll be posting soon in the Birdwatch area. So just some good news to share. Oh, one more thing, I've got 22 seconds. Thursday, this week, we're going to be recognized by the Audubon Society in Pennsylvania as a gold bird town, which is the highest level of achievement that you can achieve within their program, for all the great things that we're doing in this town with regard to birds.
I would like to add one thing to the EAC cleanup at Jordan Creek. I was just down there today, and everything behind the building and back where the yard is, it's a real mess. It's like if they take the wrapping off their pallets, it blows in there. And we've done this like numerous times per year, and I think it's an insult to the volunteers to have to do the work of $1 billion a year company, billions of years. So I'd like to see them have a little stake in the game here. It's beyond being nice. They need to be a stakeholder if it's their stuff.
We'll call their store manager and remind them that they need to clean up.
Yeah, I mean, it's reoccurring. It's like I shouldn't have to police it, neither should that.
Thank you, Tim. Next.
Next is Gary, I'm gonna say Gary S. Schaller.
My name's Gary Schaller. I live at 5716 Copley Road in Whitehall. This is in regards to the high rise in our garbage bill. I am on a fixed income, and I can't afford the increase of this 2025 garbage bill. We, as the residents of this township, should only have to pay for the garbage or recyclables or the grass that we put out to get picked up. If I'm paying $602 and I put that garbage can out once a month, that's costing me $50 and some cents to just have $50.22 for you to pick that garbage can up one time, once a month. That's not fair to anybody. I don't understand how you could bill that way. I think there's other ways that we could bill things for different people, and people that are on a fixed income like me that can't afford the $600 to pay for their garbage, there should be other ways to compromise for that. If, like they're picking up recycle bins, they're picking up the garbage, they're picking up grass. I don't put any of that stuff up, but I'm paying for it. It's not fair to me to pay for stuff that I'm not even receiving. Recycle, and now the way I understand it, the recycle's getting put with the garbage anyway. It's not separate, it's getting dumped at the same place. So, no? Where's the recycle?
It's being recycled.
It is getting recycled, so there is two separate things. That's not what I understood. Okay, maybe I understood it wrong. But I thought the recycling is going to the same place, which I thought went dumped at the same place. So, that's my mistake. Isn't there a way that they can mark it or flag it or something that the people that pick up put out garbage once a month only have to pay for that garbage once a month? I don't even fill that garbage can. It'd probably take me 6 months to fill that garbage can up. So I don't need a big garbage can like that, and I don't need, we want to stop garbage going into these sites, not add more to it. That's my problem. I can't afford to pay for this garbage bill. Not $602, it's ridiculous. I couldn't afford it at $328 last year, and now it just about doubled. I don't understand why it went up so high. That's almost $230 difference in 1 year.
So we did things this year that were never really done before. We actually went out to different haulers and whatnot to try and get bids. We could not get bids from some of the places that we've tried to do. It's, believe you me, the entire community that has refuse to be picked up, everybody feels the same. Nobody's happy that they're paying extra. And I understand where you're coming from, but I've seen people also, Bob, you can bring your stuff here. I never fill up the things. They might live in, East Wazoo. It's just sort of what it is. And
I understand that part.
We don't feel good about it, and we certainly didn't feel good about saying it to the community.
Well, what is a resident's going to do to people that can't afford that big bill? The way I understand it, if I don't pay that, instead of, what, am I supposed to pay for my garbage so I can keep my house and live in it and not eat food? Or do I eat the food and not pay the garbage bill, and then you're going to come for my house because you're going to put a lien against it because I didn't pay a garbage bill? When I don't even have to, I'd rather give your garbage can back to you, and I'll take care of my own garbage.
Sir, there's two options that are available to you, I think.
Okay.
One is a smaller can. I don't know if you qualify for the smaller can routine, which is
Okay, I never heard that. Go ahead.
No difference in price.
no difference in price?
See?
Okay, then I stand to be corrected. It's okay. And the other thing is, there is an application based on affordability. I think that's available for you to contact the township and figure out if you qualify for that based on financial need.
I think that was under 1,500, is that what you told me?
15,000.
I don't know,
15,000,
I don't know
yeah.
the number.
I'm just a little bit above that, so I wouldn't apply for that, so what do I do? Do we have, my next thought is to go around and get petitions signed by people, because I just talked to a couple neighbors and everybody's fired up about it. A lot of people, there's only 1 or 2 people in the house, and we're paying the same as big families. That would be like the same thing. If I have a $100,000 house, somebody has a $500,000 house. Well, they pay higher taxes because they got a $500,000 house. If you have a house that has 10 people in it, and they're paying the same as I am, and I'm putting so little garbage out, that's not right to me. It's not fair to the people that don't put much garbage out, and they're have garbage packed up every week.
One question I do have, when was the last time, when was that 15,000 set? Is that something that's been adjusted over the years?
And I'm not old enough to get the 25% off, because that's 72, so if they could lower that, that might help a little bit too, getting the 25% off. So if they could lower that, that would probably help a lot of people as well.
When I was treasurer, I made sure that people were applying for it. The other part was, if you are in those difficulties there, I also made sure that proof that you were in there, that you did the Pennsylvania property tax or rent rebate, and you get money back from the state, and if you own a house and you're paying property tax.
Yes.
The very minimum you would get is $380 now. The maximum you would get $1,000.
I'm not sure I understand that.
It's a program that the Pennsylvania puts out for people with lower incomes. If you fit the qualifications, you go ahead, get the application, it's a PA 1000. On there, if you just fill it out, if you qualify with what you pay and everything, you look at the back of the chart from this to this to this, like I said, from $380 to $1,000 that you would get back based upon your real estate tax.
Okay, and that would come back on your income, or when you file for taxes, or how would that? You said you have a form for that I could look at?
I have the form online, the PA 1000.
Okay.
And that has to be reviewed, and that is what determines if you make less than 15,000 a year.
Oh, I
You
don't
have-
make less than that.
Right, but
No,
they do have a rent.
That limit is 40-some thousand, so it's not 50.
Yeah, I'm at like 21 or
And again,
22,000.
that's why you have to
That's all
fill out
Social Security, I'm on Social Security.
You have to fill the form to see where you'd be at. I'm trying to answer your
What
question.
I'm saying, well, you're incorrect. What I am trying to say to you is you can come into the tax office anytime, and we will print out what you paid in taxes last year, and you can apply for a rent rebate. But you have to come in and ask for the forms.
Okay, so I
And
could
you
come
can
in
do
here
that
tomorrow?
through- Jeannie McNeil's office will help, yes, Jeannie
Okay.
McNeil's
I
office
have-
will help you
I'll have
with
my
that.
paperwork, I'll bring it in tomorrow. Okay, and that can help a lot of other people as well then, that maybe can't afford this big rise in garbage. Okay. That's pretty much all I had. I think Water Street, I don't agree with closing the street. We have enough cars on the road today.
Okay, sir,
Close the
you
street,
have
but-
had your 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you,
I
sir.
hope we helped you out there a little bit. Next.
Next up is John G.
I am not from Whitehall, but I have been spending a lot of time in Whitehall lately, so is that okay that I speak?
Okay. What is it that you're planning on talking about, and how does it
I'd like to
impact
talk
you
about my
directly?
missing 14-year-old daughter who was last seen in Whitehall 59 days ago. Is that okay, Mr. Sloniger?
Yes.
Thank you.
But-
Is it or no? I'm
I
asking.
just said yes.
Oh, okay. So 3 minutes is fine. We did not come here to disturb your meeting. In fact, actually, you guys run a much tighter shop than the one in Palmer Township that I went to for the first time last week. So perhaps we'll be future residents of Whitehall. I'm quite impressed. I also wanted to have a prepared statement, but as many of my recent days have been, I was all day on the line with a National Human Trafficking Hotline, my lawyer, other mothers in the community stopped by our house, so I've got a hodgepodge of things here, but I am John Gurman. I am the lucky man to be the husband of my wife who's sitting behind me, Jade Wu. She is the biological mother of Aubrey NC Wu, and I hope to God all of you know who our daughter is, because her face is on billboards all over the highway, and there are members of your community who are central to what we want to call an abduction, but I will say I think it is an abduction under my legal counsel. Our daughter Aubrey is a freshman at Easton Area High School. She studies Latin, U.S. history, and business. Aubrey takes all honor classes, has high grades, Ivy League ambitions, and that's not a joke. 2 days before she left our home, she was looking up Stanford and Princeton tuition rates. She passionately participates in the Future Business Leaders of America and mock trial clubs. Outside of school, her passions are dancing at the Shrin Center in our community, and she loves volleyball. On the night of January 10th, she encountered a member of your community who owns many businesses and homes in this community, who took our daughter out of the state of Pennsylvania to New Jersey to a dog show, then took her to the home of a juvenile who goes to Parkland Regional High School. I understand he does not live in Whitehall, he lives in Copley. But again, many of their families and their businesses and their jobs are here in Whitehall. When we learned the existence of these people and their role in our daughter's disappearance, we made impassioned calls, about 20 of them. She ignored all of our calls. We finally received a call from the Pennsylvania State Police that they found this woman and our daughter had, quote, run out the back door of her home. Saturday night at 9:30, your Wawa on MacArthur Road, our daughter was seen on camera footage that until just a week ago, there was mysteriously no footage of her entering or exiting the Wawa. She has bright white sneakers that do not lend credibility to the story that this woman, Faye Fenstemacher is her name. She is related to Surf Fast Construction. I'm assuming many of you are aware.
Sir, don't mention names in this.
This woman has already admitted her part to the police
Sir,
in that.
I just don't want you to be using names here. Talking a general thing, that's fine.
No problem. Hopefully you all heard me. I can't retract it. That individual just today has sued me for slander, harassment, intimidation. I don't know if you guys feel intimidated right now by my presence, but we just want to make sure that the citizens of Whitehall, the leaders of Whitehall, the people who are good enough to come to a setting like this who must care. I'm hearing talk about streets closing, parks. Sounds like a great community. A 14-year-old girl went missing out of this community, and she's been gone for 59 days. So I just asked that, I don't see anyone here from the police department, but one of the things, oh, there is somebody here. So one of the things we continue hearing is that there are a lot of sightings and tips being called into the Whitehall Police Department in that area of the Panera, Walmart, etc. If there could just please be some priority placed on those types of calls, and make sure that they are liaisoning with Palmer Township would be deeply appreciated.
Okay, we hope you the best, and
Thank you.
that's all we can do is hope you.
We'll be back every month until she's home, so thank you so much.
Okay.
Jay, do you want to go?
Next.
No, that's it.
Okay, next we'll
Sorry,
be
you just-
starting on public hearing and voting on ordinances. Bill number 2-2025, second hearing, an ordinance amending chapter 27, article 9, schedule of permitted accessory special exceptions, conditional uses, section 2-76, R-5A, high-density residential without apartments in section 27-75, high-density residential of the township zoning ordinance. Do I have a motion?
Oh,
I make a motion to approve it. Snyder?
Do I have a second? Any comments, questions?
Yeah, I did send a couple questions to Ms. Rakis, and I did get a response today. I was having trouble visualizing how this all plays out, what an end unit is, but what I gather is between the house and the property line, it's 7.5 feet. But if you're on the end of the block, it's 12.5 feet. Is there a reason why it's like 7.5 and not 8 or 9? Like, how did we arrive at 7.5? I mean, all right. I think this fits with like West Caddy, it fits with Fullerton. The concern that I had is when I looked at Hockendakwa and things north of Carbon Street, there's 20 feet between those homes. And I was just concerned how this might impact somebody that has the vacant lot now. They're 10 feet from the property line. Now somebody builds a new home and they're 7.5 feet from that. So that's where my concern came from.
Any other comments? Okay, Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Snyder?
Oh, I'm sorry, didn't get to ask the public, I apologize. Anybody from the audience have something to talk about this particular bill?
And the history of this is this was supposed to have been done years ago. I mean, because I know there's things that are not conforming right now, but we're not gonna go back and change it. Like, there's buildings with billboards on the side. Just because they exist, we don't go back and change the ordinance to make them conform. Is there a reason why this wouldn't be something with a special exception, or is it just too volume? It's just, I mean, how did it was changed back in the 90s and we went all these years without changing it?
Yeah, but we didn't enforce it. Yeah, it was interpreted as it was before. It wasn't until recently that it was caught. But, you know, again, it was, everything that came through assumed it was like it's being, well, as we're gonna show it now. So it was never snagged or never caught as a violation looking at setbacks. It was just, okay, it's the same as it was before, and nobody really caught it. So now we're just correcting it, and a lot of places have been constructed so that would make them non-conforming, a lot of them non-conforming, because they were assumed to be conforming for all these years, since the early 90s.
No, but I mean, I'm the only one that has a concern of how this might. Yeah, it's gonna fix probably 70 or 80%. There's gonna be a 20% of R5A that if somebody develops next to it, it's,
Mr. Warren, if I can, the concern for that 75 or 80% though is that it currently means their properties as non-conforming, if they want to do anything, they have to go through the zoning process, right? Because they're either going to be changing a non-conforming use or expanding it. So it's not, legally, it's not a great thing to have all those other properties non-conforming.
Any other comments? Okay, Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Snyder? I'm not great. Anybody down there, your mic's all off?
Snyder is yes.
Atia's a yes. Commissioner Bourne?
reluctantly, yes.
Commissioner Atia's, well, I already went. Commissioner Fox?
Yes.
President Sloniker?
Aye.
Okay, bill passes 5-0.
Thank you for the email.
Bill number 8-2025, an ordinance deferring the required installation of sidewalks for 120 feet along the New York Avenue frontage. Anyway, 5173 Washington Avenue as required by chapter 21, section 21-16 of the codified ordinances of Whitehall Township. Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion to approve. Snyder.
You make a motion, make a motion to approve, just a motion.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments or questions from the board?
The only thing I would say is that during the workshop, we looked at it, and we agreed that none of the surrounding properties had sidewalks at the time, and it would be a good opportunity to grant a deferral.
And the one thing I did ask is that the corner by the garage be leveled out. No, you, all right. You know, I think it would, I saw it as a barrier, and then if we're deferring this, I would assume that the right-of-way remains a mode area and doesn't get shrubbery or anything like that.
Any further questions? Any comment from the public?
Rob Pelagian from Bascom and Seeger, and the owner of the property, Mr. Thatcher's next to me. As far as Commissioner Warren's comment about the status of the right-of-way, it'll remain as it is. There's no construction being proposed for that lot.
And again, you explained, because you should know more than others, that the deferral does not mean it's not going to be there forever. It depends upon what happens in the neighborhood and whatnot. So. Any other comments or questions from the board? Any other comments from the public? You have to get up, your name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Christine Sforza, and I live in Hockey, 3422 Center Street, corner of North 5th Street. And unaccustomed as I am to public peaking, as they usually say, well, that was a joke anyway. I'm a newcomer. I've only been here about 25 or 30 years. I'm just getting to know some of my neighbors. They're keeping good care of their property, so I know they're probably okay. And so am I. But when I drive through, sometimes on this big street here, 145 heading north, I like to stop at the Weiss and pick up a few things, and then I like to reward myself with a nice cup of coffee down at the Dunkin' Donuts on the corner. And that corner is Dunkin' Donuts, bordered by Columbia Street, I believe, and 145 heading south. And I have sat there in the Dunkin' Donuts parking lot with my lovely coffee and looked at a beautiful parcel of land directly across the street from the Dunkin' Donuts. And I called one day to find out from the township what the status was of that piece of property. Because a few years ago I saw a farmer with some equipment going up and down, and I thought, imagine that, a little tiny farm.
And I don't want to cut you off or anything, but are you trying to address the concerns about this particular bill that we're asking? Because you're pretty far away from it where you're saying you're having coffee from where that property is.
No, I'm looking at the property with my coffee in my hand at the Dunkin' Donuts, looking across the street.
No, ma'am, it's not down there. It's way up in Cement, and you go up the hill.
It's looking at 145 south from the parking lot of the Dunkin' Donuts, and directly across the street is a parcel of land
No, ma'am.
that is going to be built upon.
You honestly have the wrong parcel in your mind. That's
I
not
do.
what this parcel is. And again, they can probably tell you exactly where it is much better than me. I know how to get to that parcel. I've been there, and you have to go up. Maybe you make a right on Fornicary Drive.
No, it's not up that
No,
far.
That's where this property that we're discussing is.
My property's on Washington Avenue.
This is for Washington and New York Avenue in Cement.
That's not what I'm talking about.
But that's what we're here for.
But that's why we're here.
Oh, I can only make comments about your material. I'm sorry, I thought it was for general.
And again,
Sorry about that.
And I understand people, have everything going on and they're thinking about this or that. That's fine. But
No, I'm talking
unless
about a
it's
different
about-
parcel of property than yours.
Yes,
I
unless
didn't
it's
know that I
about
could
this
only make an address about
it's about
your
this
property, so I apologize for taking the time.
Yeah, just for clarification, when you come into the general meeting, there is a sign-in sheet.
I know, I didn't know that, because this is
Okay.
my first meeting.
All right. So that's your opportunity to bring up something
I
that's not
know.
on the agenda.
I know,
Thank
Deb
you.
mentioned that very kindly. I appreciate it.
You can talk to us afterwards if you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other further comments from the audience? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, can you please poll the board?
All right, Commissioner Snyder?
That's all right.
I vote yes.
Commissioner Fox,
Yes.
Commissioner Atiya is a yes, Commissioner Warren,
Aye.
President Sloniker,
Aye.
passes 5-0.
Thank you. Thank you.
I need mine on. Good night.
Bill number 9-2025, an ordinance authorizing the acceptance of a proposal for purchase of the Tiger attachments for the John Deere 6M 105 cab tractors for the Public Works Department. In accordance with section 2.20 in the Home Rule Charter, which requires authorization of acquisitions in excess of $25,000 by ordinance. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion. Warren.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it, Snyder.
Any comments or questions from the board? Any comments or questions from the floor? Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Warren,
Aye.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Fox,
Yes.
Commissioner Atiya is a yes, President Sloniker,
Aye.
bill passes 5-0.
Bill number 10-2025, an ordinance amending Chapter 15, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Section 15-6D, Traffic on Streets, closed or restricted for construction, maintenance, or special events. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, Snyder.
Do I have a second?
I'll second Fox.
Any comments or questions from the board?
This is to make adjustments to the form for content, phone numbers, contact, points of contact. And then I guess the only thing I saw on the form is that there be an estimated of, it's temporary closure, not permanent closures. That, do they have to renew this? If they say they're gonna 30 days, I think we should ask them to have a target, provide a target of when the closure is going to be over. It says dates, so maybe it's obvious.
So I do this for St. Elizabeth's every year, and there's a time and a stop and no form, and you've got to go through and contact all the department heads and everything else. So they're just minor adjustments to this form. It's worked very well for the last 5-6 years. The minor adjustments.
Any further comments from the board? Any comments from the audience? Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Fox,
Yes.
Commissioner Atiya is a yes, Commissioner Warren,
Aye.
President Sloniker,
Aye.
bill passes 5-0.
Bill number 11-2025, an ordinance authorizing the acceptance of a proposal for purchase and installation of playground equipment at the Fullerton Memorial Playground for the Recreation Department in accordance with section 3.20 in the Home Rule Charter, which requires authorization of acquisitions in excess of $25,000 by ordinance. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments or questions from the board?
Just wanted to, I believe this was along with Senator Miller, is that correct? So just wanted to offer our appreciation and thanks. Yeah.
Jefferson was decided upon. Mr. Hibbler, Jack, myself, we reviewed the equipment. We're gonna get 2 pieces of play equipment, 2 fixed picnic tables, and 2 fixed benches.
Great. Thank you.
Any further questions from the board? Any further questions from the public? Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Atias, a yes. Commissioner Fox?
Yes.
Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
I think we just,
So just so you know, right now, only the secretary's mic is live. So when it says I'm getting red, it's the only one that says it's live, nothing else. Turn it off. So he must be a master. Actually, not, he must be a master control because.
No, it was supposed to be Tom, so maybe another board switched.
that switched?
Because it was Tom before.
So is it true that there's one master
There's
control?
supposed to be two.
Well, I'm not giving it up anymore, so.
Okay. I mean, I don't know how it's going on, but.
I'll turn mine off.
So did I.
Aye. Bill number 12-2025 has been tabled. So the bill number 13-2025, an ordinance authorizing the acceptance of a proposal for the purchase of 5 Ford Police Interceptor utility all-wheel drive vehicles for the Police Patrol Division in accordance with section 3.20 in the Home Rule Charter, which requires authorizations of acquisitions of $25,000 by ordinance. Do I hear a motion?
So I now know what happens. As soon as you push, everybody goes dead. I'm fine.
Mine's still on.
$29 million budget, we can't figure this out. You know what I'm saying?
Larissa,
guys.
Larissa, him and me are, when we're on, we're both live.
I don't know what happened, because up until tonight, everything was working fine. Unfortunately, I'm not an IT person.
I make a motion. Snyder.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it, Warren.
Any comments or questions from the board? Any comments or questions from the audience? Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
Commissioner Fox?
Yes.
Commissioner Atias, a yes. President Sloniker?
Aye.
Bill passes 5-0.
Bill number 14-2025, this is a first hearing, there will be no voting or discussion. An ordinance amending chapter 17 of the Whitehall Township Codified Ordinances zoning by revising Article 16 definitions and Article 11 conditional use provisions. That's the planning commission. Next we go on to public hearing and voting on resolution. A resolution conditionally approving the major subdivision /land development plan of MacArthur Commons redevelopment 2-revised located at 2601 and 2631 MacArthur Road, index number 21-23A. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second. Snyder.
And Ken, just, and I know before you said, make a motion to approve. I've already made the motion just to have talk, discussion, and voted against something that I brought up. I mean, just so you're aware, I don't want you to like,
I don't know if I'm saying yes or no.
okay, no, that's all. Do we have any questions or comments from the board?
So this is over by Giant, is that correct? Right.
No.
Commissioners, Joseph Zader.
You're not special, you have to come up and give your name too.
Thank you. Joseph Zader, legal counsel on the project. And our team is here to answer any questions that the board might have. We also have boards that show the project if you're interested in seeing that. Don't want to delay things or belabor things if you don't have questions, but we're glad to respond. And this is Ryan Whitmore from Lencore Engineering, our engineering consultant on the project.
Good evening, everybody.
Besides location, do you have anything else?
Absolutely.
For the public benefit, this is the parking lot that's west of Walmart, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes.
So they're wanting to put a car wash in the area.
Yes, yeah, in addition to 2 other pad sites.
You didn't say your name, and if you did, I didn't hear it. Oh, he did, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so Ryan Whitmore, I'm a senior associate for Landcore Engineering Consulting.
Lancore has 2 projects tonight, is that correct? Correct. That's why I got confused. Okay.
So the first of 2 Landcore projects. Yeah, the MacArthur Commons, it's three different pad sites that are proposed in the Walmart parking center, and it spans both MacArthur Commons tract and the adjacent Walmart shopping center. So it's 2 separate tracts, but it's one technical shopping center. So there's 3 separate pad sites that were previously approved by the board. We were on the goal line of finalizing and addressing all conditions of approval as part of the previously approved plan before the indoor rec building tenant had decided to move on and not occupy the pad site. So that was an opportunity for the car wash tenant, which was adjacent to the indoor rec facility, to expand their footprint and really take over that pad. So it was 3 separate lots on the previously approved plan. Now it's 2 lots. It's going to translate to less building square footage, less impervious coverage, so it's more of a net decrease in coverage, less intensity, and we're now here for an amendment to the approvals that were previously granted by the board.
So all the previous conditions still remain in effect. The difference is that you're taking it from 3 pads to 2 pads, but the conditions that were originally put in still will apply to this particular subdivision arrangement. Is that correct?
If I can answer that, Mr. Snyder, certainly the review letters have been issued by Keystone, by Lee Rackus, et cetera. They're all referenced in the proposed resolution in front of the board. I cannot stand here and say that the conditions are identical to what they were in 2023. They're certainly very similar, but I didn't do a one-by-one comparison of the 2. So they're all represented in the resolution with its reference attachments.
So I'm going to have to ask Frank and Jack, because I must have made a mistake on the land core, because when I was reviewing it, I honestly thought that it was the one project that's later on the thing tonight, and maybe I mixed it up because in my packet, I don't have the review letters for land core.
Mr. Snyder, if you look at the back of what you're holding there and look at the condition 7, I think that answers your question. All of the prior conditions that were in Resolution 3276, so everything from the prior approval, are being reaffirmed and are part of this approval. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Jack.
I'm okay, I just made a mistake and I want to make sure I was voting on the proper arrangement, that's all. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Any comments or questions from the floor?
Just one more thing I'll mention, and Ms. Rackus asked me to make sure I say this to you, and that is that obviously right now we have an approved plan. If you vote tonight, there'll be another approved plan. There's no intention to record 2 plans for the same site. As we move forward with meeting the conditions of this approval, should you give us that approval, we eventually will be withdrawing that plan that was approved in 2023.
And that's, thank you.
Yes.
I'll listen to him. We pay him, we don't. Any further comments from anyone? Okay, Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Attia is a yes. Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
Aye.
Commissioner Fox,
Yes.
and President Sloniker.
Aye.
Resolution passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Resolution number 3367, a resolution of Whitehall Township authorizing the Copley Whitehall Sewer Authority to act as its designee for matters related to reasonable Do I have a motion?
I make a motion. Snyder.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any comments or questions from the board? Any comments or questions from the floor? Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Aye.
Commissioner Fox,
Yes.
President Sloniker,
Aye.
and resolution passes 5-0.
Okay, moving on, Resolution 3369, a resolution authorizing an application to the Pennsylvania Municipal Assistance Program. I believe this is a grant application to update our master plan for Whitehall Township. Do I have a motion?
Yes, Fox, motion.
Do I have a
Sorry.
second?
I second it.
Any questions from the board? Any questions or comments from the floor?
I have a question.
Sure.
So this is going to go out for like an RFP? Last time we did an RFP for something like this, we actually put the amount that was approved for the quote. That will be blank this time round? Does, Mr. Mayor, I'm talking about? Lee, okay, Lee.
This is just a resolution to approve the submission of the grant application to see if we can get grant funding to move forward with the update of the comprehensive plan. You have budgeted a certain amount that I requested this year, but it's going to exceed the amount that we budgeted. So we're seeking grant funds to see if we can supplement that amount. Once we find out whether we're successful with the grant, well, then we have more of a better picture of what the funds could be for the plan update. We also sent out feelers for letters of support.
Are we requesting as much as we think we need, and the township's going to do the 15% match, or?
We have more than 15%.
Okay.
So that's
We-
part of what he feels, that we have a healthy application, because
Okay.
we've already budgeted for something more than what they require. And like I said, we just had to reach out for letters of support in reference to this.
Okay, any more questions from the floor? Okay, I'll pull the board, or excuse me, that's your job.
Commissioner Fox,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Aye.
Resolution 3370. A resolution approving the retirement and commencement of monthly pension benefits to former police officer Christopher Williams. Do I hear a motion?
I'll motion, Fox.
Do I have a second?
Snyder, second.
Any comments or questions from the board?
If I could, Chief Marks, do you want to come up and say some kind words about Officer Flynn? Oh, yeah, positive kind words. Sorry for putting you on the spot, Chief.
Hey, why not?
Just want to thank Officer Flynn. He's worked 25 years for Whitehall Township. He started in February of 2000. He served the township with a distinction. He worked pretty much most of his career as a night shift patrol officer. So he worked almost 25 years working in the overnight hours, keeping everyone safe. So he did a great job and a well-earned pension.
And if I could, that's how he went out, on night shift.
Yes, it is.
He abruptly walked in the next morning and said, "I'm done." So, but I wish him Godspeed. He was a great police officer and he served the township well.
Any comments or questions from the audience? Mr. Secretary, please hold the board.
Commissioner Fox?
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
Commissioner Tiz, yes. President Sloniker?
Aye.
Resolution passes 5-0.
Resolution 3371, a resolution authorizing the disposal of specific township records in accordance with the township's record retention and disposal schedule. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion, Warren.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any comments or questions from the board? Any comments or questions from the audience? Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
Commissioner Tiz, yes. Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
Commissioner Fox?
Yes.
President Sloniker? Resolution passes 5-0.
Resolution 3372, a resolution approving the amount of interest returned to be credited to the Police Pension Fund member contributions for fiscal year 2024. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion Fox.
Do I have a second?
I'll second Snyder.
Any comments or questions from the board? Any comments or questions from the audience? Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Fox?
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
Commissioner Tiz, yes. Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
Commissioner Tiz, yes. President Sloniker?
Aye.
Resolution passes 5-0.
Resolution 3373, a resolution conditionally approving major subdivision / land development plan of Emerson Village located at 3626 Wool Road, index number 2023-23A. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion. Snyder.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it, it's you.
Any comments or questions from the board?
I have a series of questions. Is the developer here?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Justin Strayhorn. I'm a project manager with WB Homes. Along with me is Chris Canavan, president of WB Homes. We are the equitable owner and applicant of Emerson Village. Nice to see you all again. It's been quite a while, but I'm sure you all are familiar with this application. But we are here obviously to answer any questions or comments. If we can get the plan would be helpful. Yep.
So some of these questions may have merit and some of for just general information, if that's okay?
Absolutely.
Fair enough?
It's been a while since we've seen you,
Yeah.
so.
So, yeah. I got the correct land court group now.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. There was approximately 17 or 18 comments that were made on this sheet, all right? And then our engineer responded to those as well. So the ones that he responded to and said there was no issue, I don't have a question with those issues, okay? But in our resolution tonight, there are some of them in here that I may have a question about. And if I refer to it and it doesn't match up, I apologize. But it looks like question number 8. And it has to do with requiring the widening of an abutting existing cartway to half the width of 21 feet. And the justification that you gave is accordingly, here 14 feet. But our engineer's comment states, review comment will discuss with the township traffic engineer. What was the results of that?
The result of that was the 14 feet that we are proposing is adequate, and it will also be curbed.
So when I reviewed your plan and you showed the vehicle motions inside, that was reviewed and it was all covered and everything was okay, is that correct?
Correct.
That is by our township traffic engineer, or is it by Frank Clark, or both? Both, okay. Next one came down to number 15, Saldo 22-36.B, requiring off-street parking lot landscaping to be located within the parking area. I have general questions on landscaping that I would like to address later on, but it's the next one on my list.
Okay.
Next one is 17, Saldo 22-31-D as in dog. It says there encloses a 4-foot high chain link fence around the detention ponds. Review comment, how will this safety be addressed? Has that been resolved?
It has. And that waiver is simply for material only. We are fencing the basins, but we propose split rail with the wire mesh.
Okay.
So it is for material only, just to get away from the chain link look.
Okay. I did not go through all these things in here. There was a comment about the fire, from the fire chief. That was a question. That has been resolved as well, I think.
Correct. His last comments were relating to hydrants. We did address those comments accordingly.
Okay. I reviewed your plan, and these are just general questions from my side, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
The plan itself refers at different parts of the plans as 2 phases, phase 1, phase 2. Is this a 2-phase project?
Correct.
So, in other words, my understanding of that meaning that you've designated a section as phase 1 and another section as phase 2.
Correct.
Will all of the improvements be necessary for phase 1 for fire and safety installed if you do it that way as compared to 1 and 2 and loop through? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, phase 1 will be able to stand on its own.
Stand on its own?
Correct.
Okay. When you do, and I'm going out of turn here, when you do your declarations, this is a condo, is that correct?
Planned unit development, same thing, but they will identify phase 2 as additional lands within the phase 1 planned unit
So I'm
development.
going to come back to that later.
Okay.
Fair enough? Okay, when I go to page, recorded plan, phase 1, phase 2, you just answered that question for me. When I go to your thing marked LA1, page 6, it has to do with landscaping.
Yes.
Yes.
In our workshop discussion, there was a question about the placement of the street trees as to whether they would be in the yard as compared to on the street. Is that a correct assumption? Did I get that to be right from our workshop session?
There are 288 required street trees. 234 of them will be provided along the street, and the rendering does show them along the street, along the sidewalk, throughout the development.
Okay, so this site is going to do some, I don't want to say relocating, but destroying of the wooded area per se.
There is some removal of the existing woodlands, but yes, that is true.
Okay. Have you compensated and given additional type wooded trees or something to compensate for what's being taken down?
I can give you a brief summary on the robust landscaping if that would be appropriate.
Absolutely.
Okay. In terms of the required street trees, there are 288 required street trees. We are providing 234 of those on the streets like I previously mentioned. That creates a deficiency of 54. That's due to spacing of utilities. No, those are replaced throughout the site at a ratio of 2-to-1. So that's 108 additional street trees throughout the development that will be placed throughout the development. In addition to those street tree requirements, we are proposing 147 additional trees that are not required by the ordinance as a buffer, primarily around the perimeter of the property to the adjacent neighborhoods. They will consist of shade, ornamental, and evergreens. The clubhouse and parking areas will have 17 trees and 100 shrubs. In addition to that, all the units will have unit foundation plantings, planting beds, mulch, perennials, bushes of that nature. So from a landscaping perspective, I understand the sensitivity about taking a portion of those existing woodeds down, but there will be 506 trees planted and 100 shrubs at the commencement of this project. So in terms of an overall canopy and replacement, it's rather robust for this community.
Okay, so on that line, does the caliber of these trees match our ordinance?
It does.
Okay, fine. Can we go to page VM as in Mary 1-6? That shows your vehicle movement around. Now, I know and understand that our parking requirements is something that you have exceeded because you counted 2 in the garage, and it's kind of weird in our ordinance. You counted 2 in the garage and carried it 2. So if you have 4 parking spots on one residence, you got to have a car jockey to move this all around. We all understand that, okay? But on your plan in phase 2, on the north side, you have specifically allowed for extra parking. I'm going back to the overview plan, which is ORP as in Paul 6. up in the
Commissioner
upper
Snyder,
left.
if I may, we have an exhibit up here in orange that demonstrates where the parking is. That may help with your, making your comment, if you would.
The orange indicates visitor and on-street parking throughout the community.
Yes, it does, okay? I went through and made my notes in each sheet, so that's why I'm bouncing around.
That's
So
fine.
bear with me.
Yep.
So I'm going back to the other one that I talked about, because the problem I have, that you meet the requirements in parking per the ordinance, but in the real world, you show on-street parking and you've asked for a waiver to narrow the streets in the first place, and then you placed parking, and I'm looking more so on your exhibit, I'm gonna say to the right, I think that's phase 1.
Yeah.
So in phase 1, you have no additional parking.
No, that's phase 2. That's the south side of the property.
Okay,
Right-hand side of the plan. How's that?
right-hand side of the plan, okay. We okay?
Yes, sir.
So you have no additional parking there, but you do on the left-hand side. And my question is, I know units is important to everybody. I understand that. If you go to the bottom right-hand corner of that plan, you have an access road that comes in and out that goes across an easement, which is a utility easement. Are you apt, or would you consider putting in additional parking spaces to help offset the street parking in that area?
That is an emergency access.
I understand what it is. So when I looked at the plan, your scale was 1 to 40 on your plan. So when I looked at the scale and looked at the arch, there's a possibility that you can get 8 parking spots on the right-hand side of the access road, and you can get 8 parking spots on the left-hand side. It may affect that end unit by a little bit, I'm not sure, but if you tweak the arch more to the right side, you may be able to get additional. And the reason I'm asking that is that most of your subdivision has single-family dwellings down there, but in the outside rim is where you're doing your multiple family, and that's where you're gonna run into a parking issue, and you've not provided any extra opportunity for people to have off-street parking.
I understand your concerns, and what I will say is we did a little breakdown from this standpoint. If you look on the north side, the left-hand side, you have 54 units. We're providing 51 visitor and on-street parking. On the right-hand side of the plan, there's 62 units. We're providing 53 visitor and on-site parking spots. So there are 53 visitor on-site, visitor and on-street parking on that side. I will also state, this is unique in terms of a residential development in that this community has a central clubhouse with amenities. The idea is, and that's exclusively for the use of the residents, when they have their parties, their gatherings, their celebrations, they're going to be encouraged to use that facility and the 33 parking spots to have their party there. Understand, not everybody's going to do that, but we feel we have allocated on-street and visitor parking equally through both sides of the community.
So in order to get your additional parking, you're counting on-street parking to do that, and you're doing it on the right-hand side of the plan. So the issue that I have is that you're asking for a waiver to narrow the streets, okay? Plus, then you're using the narrow street for your parking. And you do have a spot in the right-hand corner where you can grant us 8 additional parking spaces and remove them from the street. I agree that we do meet the code, and I agree that the central area that you're using, the community center, but you and I both know that you're not going to have a customer hike from there all the way around the corner because it's not convenient. Now, I've been in the Four Seasons, 55 and older and stuff like that, and let's be honest, unless you make it convenient, they're just going to park where they want to park, and that's what's going to happen. And I know I don't have standing to require you to put in more because the fact of the matter is that you meet the parking, but you're also requesting a waiver on the width of the street. And because you're using the street for parking, that's a conflict where you're asking me to make a street narrower, but then on top of it, ask me to use it as parking for convenience for your customer. I see that as a double-edged, it doesn't work.
Two comments, then maybe we can reach a compromise on this.
I'm always good for compromise.
Thank you. The reduction width, we think, still accommodates appropriately parking on one side of the street. We have not looked to do parking on both sides of the street, so there's an accommodation that is appropriate for width of travel lanes and one-side parking at the width that we have here. However, what I would say, you've rightly noted there is a utility right-of-way that runs there, and we have to get permission from PP&L to put the emergency access through there, which we've already gone through that process with them, and we have the documents all ready to go, except for, we just need to take legal ownership of the property to sign them. I would say that we would be happy to consider putting a few more parking spaces there, with the condition that we need to also be able to get permission from PP&L.
So your compromise is that you consider providing you get.
And we will seek with all, we will seek with all appropriateness.
I don't see it that way. I see it a little different.
Okay.
I see it that you will put parking there subject to the approval of PP&L. There's a difference because.
Oh, I understand the difference.
Oh, there's a difference, okay? Because that's just how I feel about it. I went through the plans, I looked at them, there's nothing wrong with it. I just know that, I mean, you may know or not, I've done some developments not to your arrangement. I thought it's a well thought out plan. I liked what you did in dealing with Elizabeth Court and the other. I just feel at that particular point and that end of the project, it's a little thin, and I would prefer that you would do that. I can't require that.
May I ask one last compromise?
Sure.
You said 8. May I say 6 to 8 in there to give me a little room to maneuver with PP&L?
The answer to that is sure, because when I did the scale, your unit on the left-hand side may encroach on the porch. And that's, of course, just sitting on my kitchen table going with the scale type of arrangement. So if you're something that you would be willing to do, that's fine. Now I have general questions. I'm just going to go down one at a time. Is this a true condo or PUD, or are you going to have fee simple for the units?
You want to give it?
It's a planned unit development, so the owners will own their unit only. It will not be fee simple. The open space will be owned and maintained by a homeowners association, as will the roads, the sidewalks, the stormwater management facilities, et cetera.
So I didn't ask it the proper way. On the foundation of the actual footprint of the house, will they have a meets and bounds description on the ground underneath it?
They want to have a meets and bounds description. Their legal description will be defined as Unit 1 of the planned unit development
So
for
it's
Emerson
that way.
Village.
Okay, I understand. You said that there's 2 phases. When you enter into the community, and the phase 1 is to the left, I think you said.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
There'll be no disturbances of any type to the right, and is it going to be that you're going to do all of your agreements with the township as phase 1 and then phase 2?
I will say we will have an agreement for phase 1, which will also include some earth disturbance in phase 2, which we will secure, just so we have a construction stacking area just to the right of the entrance. But we will secure anything we're going to disturb from that standpoint. There will be no homes built in phase 2 until we fund the developer's agreement for phase 2.
So I have a clear understanding of the phases. Left side, 100% complete. You'll be able to get occupancy, and it'll stand on its own for all utilities and all of the NPDS regs and everything else. Right side will be used for staging areas in order to support the left-hand side, but no utilities or anything be put in, and you will also take care of the funding for what has to be done in that area, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Now on your declarations, when you do your declarations, you're doing 116 units, I think.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. in your declaration with your condo, are you including 116 units, or are you including, I'm going to just pick numbers, 60 to the left, and you can add in the 60 to the right? Or is it going to be all 116 in your declarations from day one?
It'll be and I believe it's 57, just for exact, on phase one will be in the declaration with the ability to add additional lands in phase two.
So when you do your declarations and you work with the prospective buyers, they'll know that they are buying 57 units for sure. They don't know what's going to happen on the other side till you declare that you're going to enter it. Is
We
that
will
correct?
disclose that that there is an ability to declare those and what it will look like, but that there is only 57 when they buy.
Okay, so the difference, the reason I'm asking this difference, the disclosure is you are getting 57 and we can add in as compared to the reverse where you're getting the 116 and I can take away.
Correct.
And all of your association fees that you're going to be charging at this particular point, will it be based on the 57 or will it be based on the 116 for the consumer?
The association fees will be based on the 57 because the 57 will support that end of the development, and then we will have the ability to add the others in, which will then double basically the size of the budget for them.
Okay. Not all the sheets, not all your sheets indicate that it's two-phase, but it is two-phase, right? Landscaping plan we talked about.
And Commissioner Snyder, just so you're clear also, we are acquiring the ground in one phase. So we will acquire the whole ground and be the owner of it. So obviously, this is really meant just from a construction standpoint for the phasing from our standpoint.
I have my reasons for asking that, and it has nothing to do with you.
Thank you.
Fair enough?
Very good.
Okay.
And I'll stop asking.
That's okay. Extra not shown, working, landscape. The starting or asking price that you're projecting for this community is what, may I ask?
At this point, if we were to sell today, high 400s,
High 400s?
Correct.
And your singles will be?
roughly the same.
No, the
Little
singles will be in the probably 525 to 535 starting price range.
The time, from the time you start the project to the time that you complete the project, you're estimating how much time, may I ask? And I know it's like throwing a dart, I get it.
It is, but I mean, I'd like to do the math for you when we talk about, we commence construction, it takes about 6 months to get the roads complete. All right, we would hope to start a couple construction units right along the roadway at that time. Then we're looking at absorbing 3.5 to 4 a month for that period of time. So this is about a 3-year build out by the time we'll send it up.
Okay, so you did mention it's private, and therefore you're going to be dealing with the roads private and all the other good stuff. Trash, is the trash going to be picked up by the township, or is it going to be a private hauler? Have you addressed that issue?
I have an email from Mr. Myers, and I can't remember what the answer was.
Yeah, we did.
You addressed it in the deed restrictions where you're going to put the trash cans.
No,
No,
I had a question. It's going to be a private haul, we would have a private
Private.
hauler for the whole community, was what the answer I received.
One private hauler.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. I'm good, thank you for your
Thank you,
answer.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't have as many as he does. So my concern was the parking.
Right.
If you had staggered parking, how would a fire truck or a bigger truck navigate? But it sounds like it's parking only on one side, so a fire truck can get through,
Correct.
and especially on the turns.
Yes.
The clubhouse that will be owned by the association?
Yes.
And the association pays the taxes and everything on that part?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
The path along Rural Road?
Yes.
5 foot, is it 5 foot
I
wide?
think it's 6 foot.
6
6 foot macadam path.
Is that's definitely going in?
Yes.
Yes.
Will that be part of the phase, will that be phased, or will it come in at the end of every home going in? I guess
It would be built, that phase one, which would be from the entrance to the left or north,
Yeah.
would go in with phase one, to the
then-
south for phase two. But that would go in, it's not as each unit's built, it would be built as one entirety as part of the bulk site improvements.
okay.
Most likely in 2 phases.
And Frank, you looked at the design of that path. Is that something that we could use for other projects down the road? I guess I'd like to see some uniformity.
Yeah.
That.
No, it actually, it works out a lot better because with the flexible pavement. It doesn't
Yeah.
have the separation and the heaving.
Yeah.
Like you do with the sidewalk, so it's actually a better system for pedestrians.
I agree. And, you know, I'll talk to Frank about another issue. Another development got its pedestrian deferral because it was going to nowhere. Now we have something to go to. And so I would like to see some connectivity from your project to one that was approved. I don't think I have any other questions. I think he hit on a number of them. The trees were a big thing. I mean, we are losing loss of habitat, and I know a lot of people were sensitive about how many trees were being removed. And I know you're losing some natural drainage there, and that state, I guess you have to compensate the state for whatever's being lost there, replace with it.
Correct.
All right, that's all I have.
I'm good.
There we go. So they, if I understood you right, you would agree to try to put the 6 to 8 parking. So the way I'm interpreting that to mean that when I see the final plan, there will be 6 to 8 parking spaces there unless PPL says no, but they're already granting you access to go across that. So our approval would need to reflect.
Accurate to municipal building, you left behind.
Lost phone.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, that would be fine, just. You're welcome.
I just want to clarify that that's been taken care of.
Sorry.
So I drafted a potential condition 11 of approval here, based on what I heard, which would read, developer will add 6 to 8 parking spaces in the southwest corner of the property. I don't know how else to identify it, provided PPL approves placement in the utility easement.
We're agreeable to that.
I am.
Yeah, exactly.
You could also say, just for clarification, at the corner of South Cider Drive.
6 to 8 parking spaces, okay, at the corner of South Cider Drive?
Correct.
Thank you. If I'll turn, I know you need to hear from the public, but you should amend the motion. Let's hear from the public first. That's out there, amend the motion to add that condition before it's voted on.
Any comments or questions from the public? The name, address, like you normally do?
Lorian, Manuel 3107 North 3rd Street. They're having a private hauler for your trash, right?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
How come they can get a private hauler, but the rest of our township can't? Isn't that strange? Doesn't anybody find that odd? I think that's a little weird to me, that they can have a private, but I don't know. I'm just letting my views know about the whole trash thing, because I don't know. Just saying.
Yeah, how's that possible? It's just the point, that they can get a private
So
hauler.
I have an answer.
It's because of the community that they're in, okay? It's not single residential, but it's a completely different way of doing things.
That's not right.
Excuse me.
We understand, thank you.
Good.
Hold on. I did Briarwood, and it's a community, that's a condo association. And to the best of my knowledge, Whitehall picks up in there. I also think Whitehall picks up in Taylor Vision. They do not. Do they pick up in any other 55 and older? Okay, so then that's why that's the case. So it was just different when I went through for whatever reason. Okay, fine.
How are you? Okay, Karen Pashevko, 3303 Musselman Court. Thanks for your service, as always. I am not opposed to this development, but I am opposed to clear cutting 85% of the forested area. And let's be clear,
It's not some trees, it's 85%. Destroying this forest is in conflict with many township and Lehigh Valley initiatives to reduce air pollution, protect habitat, and combat climate change. Specifically, Whitehall Township Comprehensive Plan recommends protection of forested areas. As a Birdtown, Pennsylvania member, our township has made a commitment to protect avian habitat. We work really hard to try to preserve habitat for birds. As Deb said, we've gone from an entry level to the top level in 1 year. And it's very sad to think about all these trees being cut. As a fellowship neighbor, I believe that forest removal will result in increased air pollution, increased noise, and bright lights from the stadium. Increased ambient temperature due to reduced shading. Excuse me. Destruction of this green space will negatively impact the peace and tranquility of our campus. Many staff members and residents enjoy walking, sitting, and bird watching in this area. My 96-year-old father visits this area almost daily. His rollator walker is always equipped with field glasses so he can sit and watch the birds. He asked me to share this message because he couldn't be here tonight. Please don't destroy the woods. Lehigh Valley Planning Commission's Climate Impact Report recommends not only preserving existing trees and green spaces, but planting additional trees. Their June 2nd, 2023 comment letter on this development identifies this land as a preservation buffer and notes a large section of this parcel is in a natural resource conservation priority area which should be preserved. Clear-cutting this forest violates this recommendation. Yes, WB is planting many trees, and I commend them on that. However, you must understand that street trees are not the equivalent to a forest. The U.S. Forest Service study reports that an average of 20 to 30% of newly planted urban trees are dead or removed within 2 years. Climate change, high temperatures, and dry conditions like we saw last summer are exacerbating this trend. On May 17th of last year, a representative from the Lehigh Valley Audubon Society walked the perimeter of the site and identified 22 different species of birds, either by call or by sight. We also have hawks and possibly a great horned owl in the area. This is particularly important, I think. The Smithsonian Institute did a research project and found that a 60% decrease in wood thrush populations, likely due to habitat loss in North America. This is a prime example. We have wood thrush over there. I can hear them when I sit on my porch. Pennsylvania identified the wood thrush as a species of concern. I asked several times for a tree inventory because I think we should know what we're losing. Are the trees junk? Are most of them in bad shape? Yeah, then we wouldn't be so bad. We wouldn't feel so bad losing them. But are they in good shape? Is that a healthy habitat? I have not gotten an answer to that. All due respect to Frank Clark, I asked him and I got an email from him saying that a registered landscape architect from Keystone Engineering was asked by WB Homes to evaluate the existing portion of the property covered by trees. In June 2023, our RLA visited the site with the developer. He produced a document of his findings. This was transmitted only to the developer, and at this time we have no evidence that the document was submitted to the township. I filed a right to know request, and I was told by Jack Myers that the site meets all of the DEP requirements. Okay, I understand that, but if the township engineer did a study, why were those results not transmitted or shared with the township?
Because the developer paid our engineer to do that, or our landscape architect to do that. It's their property, they paid for it, they did not submit it to my knowledge. So therefore, it's not a public document at this time.
Well, I'm just going to ask, is it appropriate for a developer to pay a township engineer to do a study and the research dies? Is that typical? I don't know. I'm not a developer. I'm just going to ask, I'm asking that question. Moving on. Okay, so I have some questions and some requests. Have all of you visited the site, specifically on Fellowship property, looking at the woods, standing on Elizabeth Court, and standing on Brynwood Drive to get a feel for, especially the residents on Brynwood, what the backs of their places are going to be like after the woods are gone? And if not, I don't think you should make a decision until you actually have visited the site and really see what the impact is going to be. I'm asking that you give conditional approval to phase 1 only. Unknowns happened. We've had problems in the township with HOA's viability, the housing market changes. Related to that, the developer has promised to not remove the trees on phase 2 until development starts. I would ask that you, is there any way that you can formalize that promise in writing? Currently, there's a proposed walking trail between units 112 and 113 that then connects to Fellowship. This requires the removal of yet more trees. So I'm suggesting, can the walking trail along Emerson go out to Fellowship and then come down Fellowship Drive and then save those few trees in that little pocket? Finally, I'm asking that you vote to eliminate units 113 to 116. It would save more trees. It would reduce the parking congestion. I disagree with Mr. Snyder about putting more parking in that corner because that's going to take up more green space, which we're in desperate need for as it is. If you don't have enough parking, reduce the number of units. I propose that this is not a serious hardship because the remaining homes will be adjacent to a wooded area, thus increasing their marketability. And WB Homes has other developments, and I will read them. Royersford, 95 units. And the marketing says, tranquility of Turtle Creek Golf Course. Bayard in Telford, 22 units. Views of open space. Bexley in Hatfield, 33 units. Surrounded by beautiful wooded space. So clearly the developer knows the marketability of green space, and I would also note that all of these, they also have one in, another one in Royersford and one in Collegeville, all are under 95 units or less. So you can build less. I think that would be, reducing the number of units would be a compromise. It would really only be about a 3.4% reduction in building, and it would save the 85% tree loss. I think it's a balance. DeSaldo is not written in stone. They've received 18 waivers. What about our waivers? What about our rights, the people who live there? I'm not asking for a lot. Save more of the trees by reducing those 4 top units right there on the end. You could save at least some of the trees, and it might help Brynwood with a little bit more of a buffer. So, do you want to answer any of my questions?
I would like to. I lived on Elizabeth Court up until 5 years ago.
Okay,
I just recently sold the property on Elizabeth Court, and the buyer was disclosed that this subdivision was going in and knew everything that was going on, and they had no problems with the subdivision going in. That's number one. Number two, the second street that you mentioned up further, yes, I know that cul-de-sac as well, because I used to walk it. Where their subdivision is going would have been in the back of my old house, so I'm real familiar with that. Plus, fortunately, unfortunately, I had a lab that used to run on me all the time, so I got to know the field pretty damn good, okay? So that's that. The units that you asked to not have, did you say 113, 14, 15, and 16?
yes, 13 to 16.
Okay. The trees in phase, I think I answered those questions for you. The trees in phase two, my understanding from the developer is that no work would be done in phase two except for a staging area. And I made the assumption that the staging area would be in a non-treed area.
Correct.
So then I would like to amend my motion to make sure that you're not going to tear anything down until you get to that point.
Thank you.
So that would be about the tree issue, okay? We can agree to disagree on the parking between yourself and myself. The pocket of whether we eliminate 13, 14, 15, and 16, I have a little different take on that. Two ways. One, as a developer, I understand unit and cost, but I also understand that I got a report today that our current assessments in this township is down by 200 million, if I think I recall. We're one of three that went in negative in the last 15 years to positive. And I need to have, I shouldn't say I, but I feel that we need to have growth in our township in order to keep things in balance. So I consider it to be a compromise on this arrangement. And I do agree that some of those trees in that area are rotted and fell over and blew over and all the other good stuff, because I've walked through that area, so I know that. But I'm prepared, the fact that we are getting additional woods and not the same as old woods, I
You're not
grant you.
getting woods, you're getting trees.
getting
You're
trees.
getting urban street trees.
It's a balance between
I
where
know.
you and I can maybe agree to disagree. But I think if we get this, that the phase two won't be destroyed until they get to that phase. I think that's a good idea to put that in an arrangement.
Okay.
And did I catch most of your
What
comments?
about the walking trail?
Yeah, I opened up the plan. On the walking trail, on the plan that I'm looking at, it's at 106, and it dead ends on Fellowship Drive. Is that what you're talking about
No,
specifically?
this is between 112 and 113, am I right?
Yes. Okay, I see that.
Okay,
Now, what
so-
do you want to do there?
Well, they're going to cut they're going to cut a chunk of trees out to put that trail in. So my proposal is, there's a trail,
If I could just comment on that before we go, there is a water line. There, when the water was put in for Fellowship Drive, there is an easement on the corner of their property, and we are connecting in the water system from our development to Fellowship's at that point. So
Oh.
even if we eliminate the trail, we still need to disturb something to run the water line
Okay.
in, which provides the necessary loop throughout that whole area for your water system.
Okay,
So
I didn't
you're
know
doing
that.
that either
We're
way?
we have to disturb that either way. That's already approved by the water authority.
Okay.
And then the walking trail, we figured we wouldn't be disturbing anything extra.
Okay.
And it made it really nice. The thought behind that, I understand the tree discussion, but for the residents of Fellowship to be able to come into our development, traverse the sidewalks within this development, and then get to Brynwood Drive and make your way out, it gives you an
New
opportunity.
connectivity thing.
Correct.
Yes, I got it.
okay, I'm all right with that. Okay?
Did I address everything else?
Yes, you did, thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want them to answer anything specifically while you're there?
Well, will you agree to eliminate units 113 to 116?
Well, I
For the good-
appreciate,
for the good of the tree?
the
Because you
intent.
know, I gave you that book about
You
how important
did.
oak trees are, remember? Did
I
you
will,
read it?
I did read it. I will
Okay.
also comment on two other items. I recognize the woodlands that are being disturbed. I will also note that we have two, aside from trees from the buffers and the street trees that have to go in, both of the basins out there will be wetland bottom planted basins that will create a bird habitat. And in my experiences,
Okay.
when they grow in, they have a significant habitat for birds, different than the forest.
I agree.
But they are, and then you'll also notice there's, some meadow conditions and other things that'll be created in there. I think this will, as it stabilizes, will create multiple pockets of opportunity that aren't a completely urban environment that would provide these pockets for the bird life.
Okay. All right, thanks.
And so let me get this straight, Frank. You did a report as a township consultant and provided it to them that they weren't allowed to see throughout the process.
Okay, the way it came about was that the planning commission was discussing the value of the stand of trees. And they said, can we find somebody to do that? I said, well, we have an RLA on staff. If they want to use them, that's fine. The planning commission asked the developer to engage the guy on my staff because they could trust him. It wasn't like an outside guy that said, okay, yeah, you're paying us, we'll do whatever you want. So they felt there'd be more integrity if my firm did it. And I said, well, once they work outside the escrow agreement, they've got to take care of that on their own, and then it gets delivered to them. Okay, I'm not doing it on behalf of the township. They're requesting it as part of the planning commission's request to have the woods evaluated.
And in fairness, part of this was, we knew we were gonna have to disturb a certain amount of the woods, okay? And I think Mr. Snyder mentioned a number of fallen trees and whatnot. What we were focused on primarily was, what was the health of what we could remain in the areas that are staying, and then especially also along the remainder, outside of the major woods. There was a number of trees along the hedgerow, if you will, and how healthy or not healthy those were, as we tried to find and say, particularly in the grading and some of that we had behind lots, can we save any of the larger trees along those areas rather than affecting them with grading? And that was, we walked the whole property with them. Justin and I were both there to identify, these work, these are healthy, can we work around them versus just clear cutting and having to replace them?
And the healthiest portion of that is the area we are saving per their analysis.
I guess I just make one more comment that in our comprehensive plan, it gives some guidance and some goals for the township. It seems like once we do the comprehensive plan, it gets put on the shelf and we don't give enough credence to it. And that it's, you were given the variances for the street width because you could build more homes. So, I think we need to revisit, or if we have a comprehensive plan, we should follow it, and we should be stewards of the plan. And I think you answered the questions. If you're comfortable back there with some of the compromise with the plantings and stuff like that, but develop it all, develop it everywhere is not a plan. And that's, not your, just.
Understood.
Yeah.
Commissioner Ward, I think the other thing, just remember, this zoning district had a variety of options.
Yeah.
Some of them were mid-rise, which could potentially have pushed development in a different direction. But that wasn't the appropriate development for this site because of the adjacent land uses. So we had to all make some decisions as we started this process.
And I'm not debating your project, I'm just.
Understood your
speaking out
comment.
that. We get it, the week before, we look at it,
Yep.
it's a lot to take in, and some folks don't have input early on, and we're voting on a plan and it's fixed.
Understood.
So, thank you.
Janet Minnick, 3301 Musselman Court. I just have some things I don't understand. In the first waiver, you have about the grass strip. What does that mean?
That is requiring a grass strip between the curb and the sidewalk. Portions of this community, we have the sidewalk up against the curb. So the grass strip is not present there.
So where's the tree going?
Behind.
The tree is going on somebody's, well,
It's HOA ground.
right, but it's like in their yard.
It's not their yard, it's along the street. It's a street tree.
Okay, so then they don't have to take care of that tree at all because.
Correct. The
Okay.
HOA takes care of it.
Just to be clear, the community association will maintain all of the landscaping in this development.
Okay.
So there is a protection to make sure trees are replaced, et cetera, that are put in covenants with the township.
And the other thing, you did mention about what you're going to put in the retention areas. Is that grass or is that wildflower mix? I don't,
They're called Ernst mix. They are wildflower mixes. They're specific for basin bottoms. They're a variety of different types of wildflowers, and they actually are, as Chris mentioned, do create a really nice habitat because they do change flowers over the seasons. Now, keep in mind, they take a couple seasons to really take shape, but
Right.
it's not grass and it's not this high. I mean, it gets significant growth in there.
The first year will look like a lot of black-eyed Susans. That's what comes in first.
Just be
You have
patient.
to wait for the next 2 to 3
Okay.
when they really grow in.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
I just have a question, one quick question. My name is Nancy Poplansky. I'm at 3199 Brynwood Drive. The addition, the 54 trees that you said you have left, are those going to be a barrier to our homes on Brynwood?
Go back.
If my plan cooperates here, hopefully it can go to sleep on us.
Because we have beautiful trees that,
There you go. Oh.
One more.
So if you'll notice, there's landscaping that is all the way around the whole perimeter of the property that we are putting in to supplement the trees that exist there now.
okay, so excuse me, so is the back Brynwood?
Brynwood Drive's at the very top of the plan.
Right.
And then you'll see the lots on Brynwood Drive, and then you'll see our property line, and along that, there's a landscape buffer along the whole perimeter.
Okay, because I live on the top, on the circle at the top.
Oh, you're up top, okay.
Yes.
Yep.
I'm on the
And
corner, Brynwood and
she's-
Brynwood, 3202.
Okay.
I'm gonna lose the deer in my backyard.
Oh, state your name.
Jan Smith. Jan Smith. 3202 Brynwood Drive. Yep, yep, but I'm right, I'm on Brynwood and Brynwood, I'm on the stub. So we're gonna
Yeah.
have that to deal with.
Yeah, Mr. Snyder, I'm sure you
First
know
of all.
where we live. And we have multiple deer families that live
Yeah.
back there. We have eagles that are in those trees, nests. We have multiple different kind of birds. We have fox, which we don't like, but we have all kinds of animals back there. And we would just like to see if we can kind of preserve our land as much as we can. And I feel for the people that are on the perimeter of the development. We're on the inner circle, so we're not going to see it, but they are. So our neighbors are very concerned about it, about the new development, which is good for the community. We understand that, but we're concerned about the traffic flow. At night when the school leaves out, Mechanics Hill Road is backed up to the new development. Are they going to put a traffic light in at Mechanicsville and Rural Road? How are you going to deal with the traffic flow of 100 and some units?
We completed a traffic analysis that was submitted for the traffic engineer to review, and the distribution of traffic did not decrease the ability for the intersections. to
Have you
operate
been there
properly.
at 5 o'clock at
Yes,
night?
I have.
Yes, we have.
Driven up
6
here.
o'clock at night?
It's
It did
there's
not
a lot of
reduce.
background traffic.
Do you
This is
realize
not-
that there's a proposal for a hospital going across the street from Mechanicsville Road, right near your development in the near future?
That is a proposal that the township will have to deal with as it works its way through the approval process. We're paying a traffic impact fee, and we've done our traffic
Can I
analysis.
just ask why you decided to come up to the Lehigh Valley when you build down in the Philadelphia area?
Are you not welcome here?
I didn't say that. I know.
I like your community. You have a
Well,
very beautiful
we
community
do. We
here.
love Brynwood
We've
Drive.
gotten to know the
But,
Lazarus family quite well. They're wonderful people.
but
and
how did you find out about our community up here when you're from the Philadelphia area?
I look all over the region for
The internet?
beyond the internet. Actually, they had a sign posted out here that we drove by.
They have, but
Yeah.
we're just concerned because it's usually local builders that are here, not Philadelphia builders.
We're not a Philadelphia builder. We were.
Well, you're.
I will also say we are becoming more local. We have a number of projects in the Lehigh County at this point.
Okay. We're just,
We'd like to do more in this area,
Okay.
assuming we're welcome.
well, we'll see. I mean, your homes are very high plus a HOA fee. I don't know how you're gonna sell them, but more power to you.
Thank you.
We'll see. Are you gonna have like a home for people to come in and check out first?
Yes, model homes.
A
yes.
model home?
Yes, we will.
Okay,
We'll have 3 of them.
okay. Do you have any more questions?
No. My only
No.
comment is, how often do you sit in your dining room and watch the deer eat right beyond your fence?
Oh, and
How often do you sit in your dining room and watch 5, 6 deer go by and eat right beyond your fence? Coming through the fence, actually, the one last year. And the driveway crossing the street with their babies.
They're being disturbed.
At a minimum.
They're not gonna know where to go.
Yep.
They're gonna get hit. Yeah. Sorry.
Thank you.
Didn't really answer my question about traffic flow. I hope you're here when all these homes are built and the traffic is.
So I heard 2 additional conditions, which I can read if you want to then incorporate them as your amendment, and I'd ask the developer to make sure I understood them correctly. So the first would be a condition 11, which is add 6 to 8 parking spaces at the corner of South Cider Drive, provided PPL approves placement in the utility easement. And then a condition 12, which would be the developer will not remove trees, and I described it as on the east and south portions of Phase 2 until construction of Phase 2 begins.
Correct.
Hang on, I gotta.
I'm fine with those 2 conditions. Is the developer in agreement with those?
Yes.
Is there any other commission that wants to add something?
What I have in there is there's some way that the board, when they go into this phase 2, because by that time, maybe their report from what they got from Keystone may be shared with us so that we know a little bit about what these trees are. It appears that more people know about these trees. We know that there's some that are very bad shape and whatnot, but we don't, as a board, don't have that information. But now I know you do.
I don't want to overstate what you think you're going to be getting. Yeah. Right.
And that would be, again, before phase 2, because that's where it's going to impact these trees.
I don't think we can require a report on Phase 2 before Phase 2 starts, only because this is being approved as a Phase 1 and 2 combined. If it would be broken out, that Phase 2 would be totally separate, I could understand that, but this is a thing.
Everything you're saying, I agree with.
Okay.
But, I mean, right now, and again, I know you paid for it, it's your report, not ours, but I think it's something that the board should know about, just to see what we can go ahead.
It's an
and-
inventory. It's not a report.
It's
It's just to be clear, it's not
It's
a
an
report. It's
inventory.
just a basic block inventory of, these are what types of trees here, there's ash trees here. It's,
And we will be, just,
May I ask a question about your report?
yeah.
Sometimes you do a tree count, sometimes you go and do species. Was this something you went in and did, a basic tree count on so many caliber and the type of species? What kind of report is this thing?
It's a general aerial with blocked out sections that this generally consists of this type of tree. This generally has walnuts, this has ash that are falling down, this has invasives in it. It's not really a report, it's a sort of a basic generic inventory of the tree stand.
Did somebody actually walk the site and take an inventory?
Yes, the KCE's landscape architect, along with myself and Mr. Canavan, we did walk the property with them.
And just to be clear, and I fully appreciate the sensitivity of this nature, obviously the township does not have a replacement ordinance, it does not have a disturbance ordinance. We have gone through quite a bit of discussion and effort with staff, with the planning commission, and I know we are now in front of you, this is the first time, so I appreciate that, to try to figure out ways in the absence of those, to still try to keep a perimeter of some of the trees that are there. We moved units around, redesigned our interconnection of Brynwood Drive so that we did have some areas just along the border that might have some of the mature trees in there. And then we further looked along the hedgerows, if we will, to see where else there could be mature trees. We have no issue. We'll send that to you guys. It's yours. I don't want to leave that as a phase 2 thing. We'll just send it now. That way you don't have to worry about it, and we can move the approval along.
And again, I've been with you.
Yep, you've been from day one.
So I'm very aware.
Yeah.
And I'm also very aware of the people that live around there. And it's not something that I know most people don't take lightly, but these people are more proactive than they are saying, oh my God, they come down the street. It's something that most people don't get into, and they're not as fervent about, hey, we want to save this before it's gone. And that's all I'm saying,
It is.
Let me have a little bit better, idea. The only reason I put in there phase 2 was because right now we're going to be, the way I understand, we're going to be doing the phase 1 approval or not.
Both.
No, both.
So we will,
That's why I was concerned when you were asking. So I think I heard them, and maybe we can, I believe I heard the developers say they will share the tree inventory with the board now.
yes.
But this approval is an approval of phase 1 and 2. They're not coming back for a second.
I understand that phase 2 comes in later on, and I'm very aware, and that's where they're going to park their equipment and the building supply. I understand that. Again, I'm just trying to, again, do as good as we can for you and our residents. Simple as that.
Understood.
We appreciate that.
Yep.
The EAC, are you guys comfortable? No, yeah. I mean, for my personal opinion is, we did not listen to Lehigh Valley Planning Commission recommendations. We did not follow our master plan. We gave variances for the width of the roadway so we could get more homes in there to make it more profitable. And when they were asking for 4 homes less, I can't say I honestly know what quality of trees are there, but, I mean, I think we should be paying attention more to the township as a whole, and not necessarily how do we walk it to the end where we can get the most homes in. That seems how we design, we walk a project to the end to see how many homes we can get, and, I'm sorry, I'm just,
I can appreciate your feedback, Commissioner Warren. Yeah.
Can I have one more comment?
I'm getting there.
May I have
sorry, I hit
Google,
the wrong
may I have
button.
Google Earth, please?
Hold on. We have that one? Yeah.
Okay, now you can come up and ask your questions.
I think it's a little more of a comment than a question, and it's great if you want to share the study with us so that we can see the inventory. But an inventory is not going to tell us what we want to know. And what we really would like to understand is with that woods that are shown there, what trees are where and what trees are being cut. Because we certainly don't have a problem with the things that are invasive, the things that are dead, although scag management is an important thing of conservation. If anybody doesn't know what a scag is, it's basically when you have a dead tree, you cut off the branches and you leave a portion of the trunk to become a habitat for a cavity-dwelling bird, like an owl or a woodpecker. And it's something that we should be doing a better job of in our township properties like the Parkway. So I think that's our concern, is we can get this information, but if we don't understand it, then it's just an inventory. I could do an inventory of the shoes in my closet If you're throwing away the Louboutins and keeping the stuff that was bought at DSW, you know.
I have a question to our solicitor. Number one, we are following a comprehensive plan to the best of our ability. It is zoned for this use. We do not have an ordinance that says that we can't cut trees down. We don't have an ordinance that says that you have to replace what you cut down. So for all intents and purposes, we're meeting all the requirements are there. We've asked the developer to put additional trees in. I agree they are urban trees or street trees or whatever. I live in 1 acre next to a cornfield, have trees on the back of it, and I see deer and all this other stuff, and I get it. But we also have a parkway in Egypt that people can go and visit, etc. The developer has met all of the requirements of our current zoning, and it's an approved plan with the exception of the waivers that are being requested. Is that a correct statement?
There was quite a bit there, Mr. Snyder. I'm trying to go through them all in my head. I didn't hear anything you said that's incorrect. I'm sorry. It is, they have zoning approval. They got their conditional use approval for this layout, conceptual layout, as it is presented here. Nothing has changed from that. It complies with the Saldo, but for the waivers. Waivers, I understand. I think you went through them. You saw what they are. The waivers do not affect the trees.
All the waivers that are being requested, Frank, are acceptable to you based on what's in your report. Is that correct?
There it is. Yes. Sorry, but yeah, I'll give you the, try to keep it simple. Yeah. No, in a second. Just to get a little bit of flavor, the roads weren't narrowed to increase units. They're below their density allowance. The roads were decreased in width from the standard width to add traffic calming, allowing parking on one side only, where it's shown, because the curves are a little tighter, so they can't park around the curves for the fire trucks. So that's why that parking plan for the extra parking is not shown around the curves, right? So that's why that's done that way. But the other waivers are mostly design waivers where, okay, we're gonna use plastic pipe rather than concrete. We have those kind of things in our ordinance because that's the higher standard, right? Now, everybody's using plastic pipe for the most part. Once you get above 24 inches, I get a little shaky about the stability of the plastic, and depending on where it goes, I may or may not allow it. But other things like, we don't want to have a clay liner in the detention pond. That's been a standard for a long time, but now with all the infiltration requirements, we've gotten rid of that. So technically it's a waiver, but overall for the design and the way the regs are now, you don't want a liner in the bottom of your pond. You want it open and porous so you can plant things like the plants they talk about with the habitat. So a lot of those waivers, if you click them off, it's mostly a design choice. It's not a giveaway, all right? So we hold the standards high in Saldo, and we always back off of them. I can't add a higher standard in Saldo. I can only back down. So that's why we go through that whole catalog. Even the chain link fences, right? They're durable, they're standard, okay, fine. But we don't take over ponds anymore, but that was put in when the township would take over the pond. Right now, pretty much, I guess Taylor Villas has the split rail fence with the mesh on, and that's appropriate, it looks fine. Especially with an HOA, they're in charge of maintaining it. So it's not as if John and Mary homeowner don't have the money to put new rails in and new posts. The homeowners association will do that. Those ponds, all ponds, public or private, are inspected every 3 years. We have a full report, we have the GIS report, and the owner gets those reports and they have to make the repairs, usually within that same season. So, just for a point of clarity, with the waivers, we're not giving away the store. These are design choices that are indicative to this type of development and other types. So we've done it for Taylor Villas, we've done it for a lot of different developments. Just want to make it clear that the narrowing the roads, we do that now for residential subdivisions, not 36-foot wide, down to 30, and that's to keep the traffic from using it as an expressway. It creates a little more, a little tighter for people to drive through there, and they generally naturally slow down. So, I'm done.
Further comments from the board?
I'm so, well, I just want to be clear because, so that I know, you know, I had read the two additional conditions, and then I understood you had asked President Sonaker, and I believe the developer agreed to share the Keystone tree inventory report with the board now, not later. So I would add that as a condition, just so that it's included. But I suggest that Mr. Snyder would amend his original motion to include all three of those additional conditions.
So I'm going to amend the motion the following ways. Our solicitor have listed three of them. One was the parking, where it would go from 6 to 8 parking spaces on the corner. Number 2 was Phase 2 woods and trees would not be touched until you started Phase 2 officially. The third one is that you would provide us a copy of the report for our records, am I right in saying, of the report that was done for you on the wooded areas. Those are the three. All of the other things that you've requested stands in as far as the waivers go. That's the amendments. Did I miss something?
I appreciate it. Mr. Clark just reminded me that we should reference the updated waiver letter, which was dated February 28,
Correct.
2025, because the waiver letter referenced in Keystone Consulting Engineers letter, there was one waiver that wasn't originally included in there, which was to use,
Although, that's fine, although condition 9 does state that waiver request letter, and it says, in addition, a waiver request is 2225G for the sidewalk material. So it is listed in 9.
Thank you. So we don't need to do anything.
You thought you missed it and you proved yourself wrong.
Well, Frank was watching my back.
I was watching Frank's, I guess. Correct.
When Ken just read off that last, or the first one, we didn't include the PPL condition, correct?
He did
Oh,
the
you
parking, yeah.
Did include that? Okay, got it. Just want to make sure.
Condition 11 are the parking spaces.
Yep.
Condition 12 is the, not to remove any trees until phase 2.
Right.
And then the condition 13 would be the developer will share the tree.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
I don't know if I can add that. They would look at that grove of trees and see if there's any trees in addition that can be saved at the end. Or maybe that's just part of the process. Yeah. I see a lot of green on that map that looks like lawn, on the other map, and it's hard to say what it is. The yards along Rural Road aren't very big. The yards in the center aren't very big, so there's no reason why the yards along the wooded grove need to be as bigger, twice the size as the ones along Rural Road. So.
I've been listening to you guys for a long time, and that's what I just told Jeff, that you haven't wavered in what I think of you as being honest and forefront. I mean, because believe it or not, I've seen some developers come in here and you're a little bit more queasy when they're giving you the stuff. I hope to hell that you're not giving me the line so that, but I believe in what you're saying. That's the only reason that I'm probably going to vote the way I am. Just wanted to get that in. So, Mr. Secretary, please hold the
Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
Commissioner Tia is a yes. Commissioner Fox?
Yes.
Commissioner Warren?
I'm a reluctant yes. Really, I am. I think we need to do better on our old growth wooded areas.
President Sloniker?
And based upon, again, I have faith in these guys. I don't know why, but I do, and so I'm voting aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Resolution passes 5-0.
We appreciate all the effort the township has put into this.
Thank you very much.
We look forward to working with you.
Okay, now we get to other and discussion items. Zoning amendment request for 810 Jefferson Street.
Oh,
I was trying to get the mic. I understood, this was discussed at the workshop last week, that you were considering whether to have a motion. I believe it's already been advertised for this week's L&L. But it doesn't have to be on there, but if you want it on there, you should make a motion to send it to L&L.
We have to make a motion to send it there before we just go ahead and say it's going to be there.
Or you can do it by consensus of the board. There's this blank motion on here that
I saw a motion, but it was incomplete, but when we get to discussion, I can clarify. People on board, any problem with it? So the next thing we have is the liquid garbage bills, Commissioner Snyder.
So at our workshop session, we talked about the delinquent garbage bills. It's $250K is the current outstanding. In the workshop session, I proposed that we, because of the dates and everything that we discussed, that we would ask our solicitor and our mayor and administration to come up with a plan to try to collect that arrangement. That could be something from as simple as, and I'm going to use a number, 100 residents, because I don't know what the exact number is, that we would send a letter to the 100 residents, and this is all contingent upon the approval by the solicitor, telling them that you are delinquent on your taxes for how long it is, on your garbage fees, how long. The amount you owe me is back, plus interest, plus fees. Pay it within 30 days. If it's not paid within 30 days, at that particular point, I would like to have it that our solicitor would start the foreclosure procedure to get the funds, because the funds is $250,000 today, of which does not include interest and/or collection fees, and at a 5% rate, that gives you almost $500K that we're entitled to. And with the fact that the fees are now going to be $600, these people have not paid for 10 years. I don't expect them to pay, and as I say, get religion and pay it automatically now, and this thing is going to grow. We're currently using another company, and I'm going to say it's Portnoy, I think is the company. They're doing a good job, but we still have these laying around since 2015, 16, 11, and 12, and I think we draw the line in the sand, send a letter to all of them and say, it's time to pay up. If not, then we come up with a policy and a procedure to start foreclosing on these properties. Some of these properties owe us $15,000, $20,000 and have no mortgages on them, and like we discussed. So if it has to be done through a resolution, or it has to be done through a plan through the administration and a solicitor, it's time to go through and go after the money. That's what that's about. We had more discussion in a workshop, but I would like to know how we proceed to do that.
Can I ask a question?
No, not now, sir.
Okay.
Not now. Oh, you'll get in trouble. Asking our attorney.
So Deputy Mayor Myers and I we both have some ideas. If you give us an opportunity, we haven't had a chance since last Monday, but if you give us an opportunity, we will discuss it and discuss it with the mayor and get back to it. Yep.
Everybody feels the same way? Okay.
And that's why I didn't want you to talk, because we're not gonna even get near this tonight, so.
I just had two questions, it's okay.
No, and I understand your questions and everything, but we first have to get this started before we'll be able to maybe give you an answer that will make sense, that, you know. Okay, thank you. Next thing is the recreation center.
We also talked about this in length at our workshop. Randy and Jeff are in the same committee that we are. During the month of April and May, you're going to get a presentation on Jefferson, and you're going to get a presentation also on the overall parks and recreation. Yeah, April's the rec center, and then the other one's there. And in order to keep moving this thing along, we're going to have to figure out how to fund the true infrastructure that's going to be happening based on the proposal. We've talked to them in our meetings about what has to be done and how it has to proceed. I think the township is at, I would say, a tipping point, a turning point, but it's really crucial. Shot Avenue, we all know, is now turned back over to the township. We have two active playgrounds that are here that are privately owned, Hockey and Egypt, and they're going to stay that way, but it looks like that we're going to be taking over more and more recreation. And when you see this report, we need to study it and not put it on the top shelf and forget about it, because when you look at the cost that's involved, I'm not telling you that we can afford it, because I don't know the answer to that question. On the same token, if we can't afford it, then I think we need to have an option B, because what we currently have now is not working. So there may be an option B, and that may require us, or will require us, to spend some funds to find out what that is, and you'll get a better picture of that during the month of April when Jefferson is presented to you. They took an hour and a half to present it to us, so at the commissioners' meeting, you could figure you're going to see a good hour to go through it with a lot of questions. I don't know, have you gotten copies of the reports that we're getting, or is it just the guys in the committee? Okay. So this is just a first review of the thing, so that's what's going. I just want the public to know it is on the drawing board, and we're working our way through that, and there's going to be a lot of questions coming out. That's all. Thank you.
All right, now the reports of public officials will start with Commissioner Fox.
Sorry, thank you for everyone getting here. I'm glad that the weather's getting nice. Thank you for everyone getting out here. I'm glad the weather is getting nice for us to get out. And I really don't, thank you for always coming out and being here and supporting us also.
Commissioner Dia.
Yeah, a couple things. I was gonna talk about the Parks and Rec Committee, but we just touched on that, so I'll skip by that. We'll obviously that'll be at the next month's meeting, so we'll hear a lot more about that then. Yesterday I had the opportunity to attend.
Randy, we can't hear you, I'm sorry.
Mike's not on, that's my fault. Yesterday I had the opportunity to attend the Saquon Barkley Day held at the PPL Center. It was a really neat experience. Mayor Marks did a really nice job representing the township and kind of thanking Saquon for what he's done and kind of, what he's done to represent the township. I know Alberta's not here tonight. She does obviously a lot of work with his foundation, and, just being there, it was pretty special to see Saquon, who, I knew when he was younger in his high school days, and the impact that he's had and his foundation has had. I know Alberta's really proud of that, and I just want to touch on that. It was a really nice day for Whitehall yesterday, and I again want to thank the mayor for his support in that. It was pretty neat. Also, Whitehall High School had a state champion wrestler, which was really awesome to see, and I want to thank. I see Chief Builders back there. I want to thank the escort that he got was really special. I thought that was really neat. I think everybody in the township was really proud to see that, so I want to thank you as well for supporting that. That's pretty much all that I had that I wanted to share tonight. It's been a long night, so thank you.
Commissioner Warren.
At the Rec Commission meeting, they were presented two plans to look at. One was for, which one was it? Bridge Street, the Bridge Street development, and the other plan was the warehouse. I don't know if plans got mixed up. Were they supposed to get the warehouse plans to review? That's what was provided. But the one comment about the Bridge Street development was that since it's so close to Egypt Park, that there would be access directly from the cul-de-sac area or some designated right-of-way that people could walk to the park instead of having to go all the way out to Bridge Street, out by the Doughboy Monument and cross over. It would be sad to have a development and have to walk 4 blocks to get to the park that's right behind your house. So that's a comment that they had. Another comment was when they saw this, the rural road development, the comment was made that, you know, they got a waiver. Why aren't we expecting connectivity from their path onto the, it's getting late at night, Fellowship Manor property? There is a path that would connect right to that along rural road?
No, it goes through the wooded area where the water.
Okay, yes, but we have a path on rural road that fronts rural road. It gets to the entrance to Fellowship Manor. There's nothing on the other side of it. So there needs to be connectivity to the existing sidewalks, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I think you spoke on the deferral of the sidewalk that were on the plan, but I think we might have to look at that again. The other thing too, the Sears property, they did put sidewalks in there to prep for the Wawa, I guess. There's 2 areas where I think there aren't curb cuts. I don't know why they would. The former Sears Automotive. They put new sidewalks in and they did some prep in the back before the plans got approved. The sidewalks that are there go to a curb. There are no curb cuts. So.
Which section of sidewalk are you talking about?
Entrance. If you go down to the entrance on the left-hand side, there's a sidewalk that goes to the new building. I'll send some photos to you.
Yeah, if you're talking about, is this
No, this is on the property.
on the property? Okay.
Yeah,
I'll have to take a look at it.
Yeah.
77.
and I think that's all. I did want to clarify a statement I made earlier about Water Street. I think if we're saying where it's a temporary closure, that if there's a possibility that it could be opened again, that we should be looking at traffic calming. The state did say there are things that could be done, and I think we need to formalize that. If we're just going to say it's closed, it's closed. The board hasn't been involved with any of those decisions at this point, so, thank you.
Commissioner Snyder?
I covered all my items, thank you.
Okay, and for me, with it getting nicer out, been on the roads, and must say that just be careful out there. I mean, we have people now that think that you can do 80, 90 miles per hour on MacArthur Road. I mean, and car almost hit me twice today with a half-mile away, and he just kept doing one of these deals, and, well, just be careful. It doesn't mean to go ahead and get angry at the guy, but that's my hope for everybody, that they just go ahead and take a deep breath, kind of thing. Okay, treasurer's report.
Unfortunately, I was only able to take the report today because we're in the middle of tax season. Tina.
I was able to get the real estate tax bills out early in February, and then the garbage went out in March. So for February, we did collect $7,800 for open space, which was for 14 days. So we're working on that. I also attached the business privilege we collected, the business privilege that Berkheimer collected, and I'm still waiting to hear from the board on what we plan on doing with the churches. Some churches are paying for garbage, some churches aren't paying for garbage. I was advised by Mr. Myers that it was a commissioner's decided years ago not to charge churches. And I sent 2 or 3 emails
Yeah.
about it and never heard back.
I think we discussed last week after you left, I think it was, we were talked, when the garbage bid was put out the bid, there was an option for what's the charge for places of worship, and if they provide that service, or if they don't. And both bidders left it blank, if I remember correct. So it's not like if we would say we're getting rid of it, we save money. They left that blank. They kind of did that as a, for whatever they left, they didn't provide a charge for that. So I think if we say, okay, now you gotta pay, we don't get money, well, how should I say it? We're not gonna get a reduction in the cost from Mascaro.
The problem is.
Yeah, but,
Some churches have toters, and they're being billed for them.
yeah, and so did you communicate?
Some churches don't have
Right.
toters, and they got their own trash hauler.
Yeah.
Some churches are paying for numerous toters, and some churches aren't paying at all for toters. So I need to be uniform.
Right.
I mean, you can't have
Yeah.
this church paying and
I
this church
I
not
would
paying.
prefer that we communicate, if we're gonna decide to continue it, that everybody's, I mean,
It was I never knew that. I
Yeah.
thought all churches were free.
and the one place, I think at the Hunger Initiative, they are going to let when their contract's up, they're probably going to jump on board. All right, sorry.
I still don't have, okay, I got it. I've addressed St. John's. The food bank reached out to me. I addressed the cardboard ban, had it upsized to an 8 cubic yard instead of a 4. Yes, Republic has a bin there. We don't know where the bin came from, who ordered the bin, why it's there.
I think the church has it, and they're fine. They just said they
right.
didn't know.
I
They're
think
not
the
a-
confusion that lies here is this happened over decades. How these churches became payers for service, or where the service came from, the township clearly provides the service, and it's goodwill on the part of the provider. So I don't know where this is all coming from. I mean, I don't understand why the churches are being billed at all. They shouldn't be billed. I mean.
I think if we're gonna continue the service, then we communicate it with them. I think that's all.
Well, yeah, and
Yeah.
So I need the commissioners to tell me to eliminate garbage bills for the churches that are paying for toters.
I'm sorry.
You just can't do that per se, because, for example, there's a church next to my office, and they put out, I think, maybe 4 toters. Okay, okay, but I know it as seeing the toters there most of the time. I think if we do anything, what we do is we say very simple. Every church organization will get 1 toter and 1 recycle free, period. And, nope, can't do that?
You can do whatever you want. I can just tell you that I can just tell you that the way that this was done back in 1991, when we went to privatize, was the board was very clear that we were supposed to continue to provide identical service as the township was providing. And that was, we collect their garbage, they aren't billed for it.
Okay.
That was, and it's never changed since then. And I don't know how those ended up getting put on the garbage rolls. That was their position at the time. I've never been told otherwise.
So Tina, over at St. E's, they have dumpsters, okay? But I don't know if they're being charged for any toters. The church next to my office, they are what? So the toters that you say are there, I can only tell you that from where I'm at, I only see the things in the parking lot. If Father has a toter, I don't know that. I know.
It's the basement of the school, the social hall, St. John's up here has a dumpster. They used to have a school,
Which one does?
So it depends on, since we had each one, I don't know what the thought process was when they issued bills or didn't issue bills, but each church has social halls.
So going back to the beginning, and if you wipe the slate clean, you have a, depending on the religion, okay? You may have a, oh my gosh, a rectory. You may have a rectory, i.e. a residence. You may have a pastor's home, i.e. residence. Then you have the social and everything else. I think what we need to do is put it on for a workshop, if Tom's willing to do that, and give us all of the information, who's paying for what. I've seen it from you before. And we come up with some type of clear path and look at it and say, because it's mixed up. It is really mixed up. And come up with a clear path. Maybe somebody gets hurt, maybe somebody comes out ahead of the game, but right now, it's not fair. And we do that.
The funny part of it is the church by your office decided to go with the dumpster.
Why,
And
you don't know
they
why?
called me and said, you know what, the dumpster's a lot cheaper than you told us.
I'm paying $500 a month for my house.
And at the end of last month's meeting, Ken, I guess you had some questions about something I left, and
I'm fine. I reviewed your reports today.
there was nothing wrong with my reports last month.
The only thing was that money went to Berkheimer, but it wasn't said what it was for, so I didn't know if it was school tax or what it was, but I'm fine.
Berkheimer just gets business purpose.
But I wouldn't know that. If you didn't tell me, that's all.
Yeah, I don't pay anything to Berkheimer.
Okay, fine.
That's it.
Mr. Mayor?
Okay, Saquon Barkley Day at the PPL Center yesterday. Better proclamation. Saquon Barkley Day at PPL Center yesterday. I read a proclamation on behalf of the people of the township. It was a really nice event. We should be proud. Saquon's a good guy. And it was really nice. And he was really understanding, welcoming. He's a good guy. Trailhead project started. People are going to be inconvenienced. There's alternate parking. Rook Street. You know, it's going to be a struggle for a while, but it's going to get done. We just have nowhere to go. So everybody's going to have to be receptive and understanding, and we'll get through it. Street sweeping started. Once again, you know, Public Works had a pretty challenging winter. The storms were like whack-a-mole. We'd had ice storm after ice storm, then a snowstorm. Salt was a struggle, but we appropriated salt through Turnpike Commission and others. It was a regional problem, actually a statewide problem, but we got through it. We have salt reserves in place. We're going to build our reserves up for next year's season. And it costs some money. We had quite a number of hours of overtime, and salt costs got pretty excessive. But it's nature. We can't control the narrative. We can only deal with the problem and address things. Wilmot Kai won the state championship in wrestling. We have to honor Wilmot. I haven't met him yet. I plan on going over to the school district and introducing myself and, you know, congratulating him on his successes. Going back to the Saquon Day yesterday, our band and our cheerleaders were there. They were outstanding. I owe them a lunch. We were going to have lunch delivered, but the PPL Center doesn't allow food to be brought in. So they suffered yesterday, but I called the superintendent today. I said, I'm a man of my word. I'll get lunch over to those kids. But what's that? Yeah, they were dancing for a while. You know, but they're young and spry, and they didn't seem to mind it too much. And Saquon was gracious enough to go out and greet both organizations and take pictures with them. And I think it was a big deal to the kids to see somebody at his caliber, you know, athlete. But I'll tell you what, we have some really good kids in this township, and they're involved, they're engaged, polite, on point. First thing I did when I had the ability to make the presentation was I called out the cheerleaders and the band from Whitehall, because I felt it's important. This is about the kids. This isn't about us or our egos or our politics. And I think they appreciate that. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Such a problem.
been practicing over the summer.